Subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
The beer and took a sip. I'm not going back. We'll wait until the holidays are over. Besides, I'm a detective affiliated with the Arkham Police Department. I'll be promoted to sergeant when I get back. It's up to you to figure out the crime department on your own. You can't say that. Talents like yours are wasted in the Arkham Police Department. Gordon's voice came from a phone. There was fatigue and exertion in his voice, as well as a yawn from lack of sleep. It was obvious that he had been very tired during this period of time. Gordon has served in the three most powerful departments of the Gotham Police Department: the Homicide Division, the Major Crimes Division, and the Special Operations Team. The Homicide Division is responsible for some homicide cases. The once famous shooting case of the Waynes was handled by the Homicide Division. At that time, Gordon was still very young, and it was the first time he met Bruce Wayne. The Crime Unit, as its name suggests, specializes in investigating serious and important cases. It has investigated many major cases in the past. The current #1 case is the invasion of the mayor's mansion. The goal is to arrest Batman. The Special Operations Team is a force directly affiliated with the Gotham Police Department. Its equipment, treatment, and numbers are very strong, but they also have a name: Police Chief Loeb's personal thugs. This was also Loeb's answer to giving cold treatment to Niji after he learned that the captain of the Special Operations Team, Fraz, was beaten by Niji and the others. Beating a dog depends on the owner. Stop trying to persuade me. You don't believe this. Let me ask you one question. Do you remember which way your door opens? Facing west. It's not that I won't go back. There are too many things going on, and a madman came out recently. Sigh. Through the phone, Niji could feel Gordon's miserable look. In fact, he didn't say anything. The homicide rate of the crime unit ranked first among the Gotham police. Sometimes in Gotham, being called a loser is not a bad thing, because ordinary heroes die too quickly. Wait, you mean crazy? Someone has escaped from Arkham Asylum again. Niji took a sip from the beer bottle. No, it was a Joker. Who knows? He jumped out of that circus. He killed a gang and the entire warehouse at Dixon Pier. Who? What did you just say? Joker. Niji spurted out a sip of beer, and the cold wine fell on his broad chest and flowed onto his brown beach shorts. After hearing the name Joker, Niji sat up directly, even a little dazed, and finally came. The Prince of Crime in Gotham City, the spokesperson of chaos and madness, and the #1 leader of Batman's fan club. Joker. What's wrong? Gordon sounded a little confused. No, tell me, what happened to Joker? Niji raised his hand to wipe the drink off his body, and his Hawaiian shirt was blown up by the sea breeze, revealing his strong body underneath. It's the mutilation case at Pier 33. It's a small gang, it seems. I'll take a look at the information. Wait a minute. Gordon's voice sounded on the phone. Give me the information on the gravel case at Pier 33. Then there was the sound of turning pages. Found it. The Hell Iron Fist Gang, a small gang with only 9 people, were all chopped into pieces, and all their faces were cut with smiles. Gordon's voice was intermittent and filled with disgust. It was obvious that the scene and the information was not good looking. Anyway, we found a playing card at the scene with a grinning Joker on it. We named the criminal after this. Now we have no clue. Then it's really Joker, correct? Niji laid down directly on the beach chair. The only one who could do such a thing and leave playing card behind was Joker. Do you know him? Gordon asked quickly. I've heard that this guy is very dangerous. Niji found an excuse at random, then changed the topic and asked, where's that big bat that comes out late at night? How are you doing lately? Is it still alive and kicking? Niji couldn't help but smile. Joking about Batman makes me feel better. The situation is not good. You know, there are more shootings in Gotham. Gordon reminded quietly. Gotham's black market firearms channels are all under the control of the Romans. In the past, knives were used for robberies. This cheap labor tool appeared most frequently in street shops. But the number of shootings has increased. In other words, the Romans have opened up access to firearms, and the cost of fighting crime will rise again. I hope you have your body armor ready, Niji warned, then hung up the phone, looked at the blue sky, and thought about it for a while. Joker has appeared, and the big stage of Gotham is about to become lively. Miyaji picked up the phone and looked at the address book on it. The phone was adjusted to Chinese, and the password was made up of homophones and pinyin, so Miyaji didn't worry about being seen by others. Without 20 years of Chinese language and dialect foundation and 5 years of intense internet surfing training, I can't understand anything on Niji's phone at all, even if I find a Huaxia Tonglai. Edward, has the person been found? Niji called Edward Nigma the Riddler. The Riddler Nigma is in Star City. In addition to helping Otis with his lawsuit, the other thing he does is to find someone. Not the Green Arrow who survived on a desert island and returned from purgatory, but a doctor, Dr. Achilles Milo. Speaking of which, this man is not famous, but the werewolf who helped escape from Arkham Asylum that night was his result. To be precise, it is the result of side effects. After all, many scientific achievements in the world were created by accident. The werewolf's name is Anthony Romulus. He won the Olympic gold medal at the Olympic Games 3 years ago and achieved outstanding results. However, underneath this dazzling performance was the reason for long-term doping. This stimulant is a special stimulant made from the genes of an ancient giant wolf that Dr. Milo dug out from the ground and mixed with the hormones of wild wolves. Uniquely, even the testing team at the Olympic Games found no problems. The only problem was the severe side effects, which turned Romulus into a bloodthirsty werewolf. In order to get the antidote, Romulus became Dr. Milo's lackey and helped him do a lot of things. This time he went to Gotham to complete a task because he was paid to do it, and then he was admitted to Arkham Asylum. Now, Romulus is still in Arkham Asylum, probably really crazy because he is extremely resistant to sedative drugs, so he can only be physically anesthetized. Dr. Milo is in Star City, running an underground pharmacy that sells stimulants to mercenaries or other random characters. As for the seedlings, they have no other intention, they just want to borrow the formula to see. After all, people are difficult to control, but mice, they can control them at zero cost. The rat catcher's ability to control rats is what makes the Riddler's eyes shine, and he even convinced rat catcher Otis to get a sample of a bomb rat. But in the end, I gave up because it was too unstable, so I just got some small cameras to act as camera mice. Chapter 82 Bar Night Talk in Star City at night. Except for the street lights and the conspicuous skyscrapers in the city skyline, all lights are turned off without exception. Only the billboards on the rooftops of the top floors emit a faint white light. The whole city seemed to be covered in darkness. Only in some small alleys hidden by tall buildings can there be light of feasting and feasting. Happy Valley Bar. Niji held a thin cigar in his mouth and wore a beige plaid suit. He looked a bit like a cowherd, but with a pouted mouth, a frown, and an expression that kept strangers away from him. Just tell the girls who want to come over to strike up a conversation and seek excitement for a one-night stand to stay away. I said, "What's your expression like?" Wearing a dark green suit, he was meticulously dressed and his hair was combed brightly. Nigma walked over, raised his hand, snapped his fingers, and shouted into the bar, "A cup of J Dragon." I feel a little irritable thinking about going back to Gotham. Niji held a cigarette in his mouth, shook his head, and knocked the ash into the shell ashtray. Niji asked, "Have the lawsuits been settled?" "Yeah." Nigma nodded and reached out to take the Emerald Dragon cocktail handed over by the bartender, which was melon-flavored and had a small stick with a yellow question mark on it. It was also because of this question mark that Nigma chose this glass of wine, because it looked different. Otis got the justice he wanted, as well as compensation. Those old bastards were only willing to pay $1 million. If they hadn't used some tricks, the $2 million would have been impossible. Nigma raised his eyebrows when he said this. Niji didn't even need to guess. He knew that this little trick was definitely not trivial, but it was good. "Thanks a lot." Niji picked up the wine glass and clinked it with Nigma. There was light green wine in his glass, which looked very different. "I heard that you have done a lot of big things. Did you capture the Arkham Police Department?" Nigma put down his glass and asked, "I will be the police chief when I get back. Where do you want to go?" "Gordon's major crime team has sent you an invitation." Nigma turned the question mark in the wine glass and shook his head. "I can't go anywhere. It's all my fault for those people, Niji. Those people want me to live on the street." Niji nodded with deep feeling, picked up the wine glass, and touched it with Nigma again. Although they are all called Gotham Police and collectively referred to as the GCPD, there are not many factions among them. Gordon was able to prosper and become Gotham Police Chief later on, all because he had really strong qualifications and outstanding abilities. Otherwise, Loeb would have asked him to retire and get out. It can be said that Gordon has worked in all positions in the Gotham police force. He even worked as a traffic policeman posting tickets on the street for a period of time, during which he was even retaliated by those street gangsters. Most of the people in Gotham's police force have worked with him before. Although Gordon does not accept dirty money and has a bad temper and a tough temper, he is a good person with ability. This is almost a consensus. When the interests of these people are not touched, they are all willing to give Gordon a face. However, other people are not so lucky. They have no background, no power, and no background. It is difficult to get ahead. The achievements that Niji earned with all his hard work were only possible because of Gordon's recommendation. Otherwise, he would still be a small policeman in Arkham District, and he might one day put on a mask and go robbing. As I said before, let's do something big together in Arkham. Niji said with a smile. I'm waiting for you to prosper. Cheers. Nigma raised his wine glass, and he was also pressing himself on Niji. Just because this little policeman who climbed out of the slums was able to treat him to a drink of red wine with a starting price of $20,000 when we met him for the first time. This is something that Nigma will never forget for the rest of his life. You must know that the average police officer only earns $40,000 to $50,000 a year. And he was also ostracized in the Gotham Police Department. If others would have knelt down and sang "Conquer," then they would be complicit. But let him grovel with a group of primitive people who don't even know Goldbach's conjecture. It's better to resign, hanging around in the evidence room, occasionally guest starring as a forensic scientist and giving lessons to the police officers who write reports like peeing their pants. Ordinary, but without any hope, until Niji invited him over. Arkham District was notorious, and everyone in Gotham knew what kind of place it was. But this is also an opportunity. Try this, it's a great wine. Niji mysteriously took out a silver wine flask from his arms, unscrewed the lid, and poured a glass in Enigma's wine glass. What kind of wine is this? Enigma looked at the light green wine, picked it up, and smelled it. It looked a bit like vodka. Good wine. Niji smiled and put away the wine bottle. This jug is specially made and contains the Bacchus gem he found in the valley. Make wine and drink it. The castrated version of the Fountain of Immortality. Well, maybe it's not even a castrated version, but it's one of the better ones for recovering from injuries. Just like the legendary century-old ginseng, the kind that can extend your life. Nigma looked at Niji, then at the wine glass, drank it all in one gulp, smacked his lips, and his face immediately turned red. It tastes pretty good. Ah, Dr. Milo, what should we do? Niji picked up his wine glass and took a sip. With Nigma here, he doesn't have to worry about making these plans. Does he know what an external brain is? Tomorrow at noon, an environmental organization that protects extinct plants will demonstrate there to oppose the development of the River Beach Villa area. They will just pass by Dr. Milo's research laboratory. Nigma dipped his fingers in wine and drew a rough floor plan on the table. During this time, he asked Otis to send a lot of mice, and the situation there was clear. But the only problem is that it has to be fast, and Nigma paused for a moment, thinking of those tragically dead rats, and the picture passed back. There should be a werewolf inside. It doesn't matter, just kill him. No matter how hard the werewolf's head is, it can't be stronger than a bullet. Niji grinned, took out his phone, and pulled up a few photos. Please help me first. What text is this? Nigma shook his head. The glass of wine just now was warm and comfortable. It made him feel like sleeping. His insomnia was quite serious. Taking Niji's mobile phone, Nigma looked at the photo above, which contained some text. It's very special. It looks like occult writing. Niji looked at Nigma expectantly. This was a photo he took from the Alchemy Codex. He really didn't understand it and couldn't understand it. This is a bit like Voynich text. Where did you get it? Nigma asked with a frown, reaching out to hold his chin, his eyes fixed on the text on the photo. The Voynich script is the most mysterious text in the world. Only one volume of the Voynich manuscript has been found in the world. It is a mysterious manuscript named after the discoverer, the American rare book dealer Voynich. This was also the biggest discovery in his life. Voynich invited the world's top cryptographers at the time to decipher the manuscript, but no results were obtained after several years. Do you know what this is? Niji asked curiously. It should be something from occult science or alchemy, but this kind of text should be written in code. Nigma shook his head. Originally, he wanted to say that it couldn't be deciphered, but he didn't want to say that there shouldn't be any puzzles in front of him. Have discernment. Niji stretched out his thumb. Help me decipher it. I have a whole book with 320 pages, can you? Niji asked in a deep voice. Nigma hesitated for a long time and finally nodded. Chapter 83, Preparing for Robbery. Put on your hat. Follow Mr. Nigma and study hard. Niji raised his hand, put the baseball cap on Jason, and pushed him in Nigma's old car. Be careful on the road. See you in Gotham. Niji waved towards the cab. See you in Gotham. Nigma waved his hand and threw a file-sized instrument to Niji. This was a signal jammer he had made before, which just turned off the monitoring in Dr. Milo's laboratory. The old car left here quickly. Jason, who was sitting in the back seat of the car, was carrying his school bag. He looked at Nigma, who was driving in front of him with a wary expression, and then looked back at Niji, who was watching him from behind. Nigma looked up at the rearview mirror. Although he was not willing to take care of children at all, Niji had told him that this was his first student. Let me meet you. My name is Edward Nigma. What's your name? Jason Todd? It's a good name. It means rich knowledge, spirituality, good at analysis, and rich knowledge. Nigma drove the car and asked questions to himself, commenting on Jason's name like a treasure trove. Really? Jason looked at Nigma in disbelief. He didn't even know that his name had so many meanings. Jason's surprised look was very helpful to Nigma. He nodded. Of course, if you read more books, you will also understand these things. Why? Should I go back with you? Jason said somewhat unhappily, turning his head to look behind the car from time to time. But seedlings could no longer be seen. This reminded him again of the night when his mother left him in the crime alley. As long as he read 1,000, his mother would buy bread. But she didn't come back. Looking at the depressed Jason in the rearview mirror, the Riddler frowned helplessly. Children are the most annoying. Listen, Niji has handed you over to me. You will be my student from now on. If you see me, you will call the teacher. Take good care of the things in your bag. You will decipher them with me when the time comes. Do you understand? Nigma said in a deep voice and honked the horn to express his dissatisfaction. It was not that he hated the job Niji assigned him, but that he was powerless against children. In terms of communication, he has a negative score. Yes, teacher. I will try my best. Jason shouted. The sound of teacher calmed down Nigma's irritable mood. He quite liked teaching people things. Very good. Let's take the first lesson. It's as light as a feather, but no one can handle it for too long. What is this? I don't know. It seems you're a fool too. Watching the old car leave, Niji tugged on his suit, straightened his tie, held a cigarette in his mouth, and whistled at the mouse on the mailbox next to him. Bastian, we have to leave. The light brown mouse, standing on top of the mailbox with a small backpack hanging on his body, quickly stood up and jumped over. Gone. You've gained weight again. You're a lot heavier now. Niji held the heavy mouse in his arms and got into the beetle next to him. The dark red coffin was tied to the roof of the car. The engine had just started. Bastian, who was nibbling donuts on the passenger seat, looked up at the gear he was slowly moving. He stayed in place in surprise, and then turned to look at the rearview mirror above. A ferocious demon face suddenly appeared. After starting the engine and driving the car out, Niji turned around and saw Bastian lying on his back on the passenger seat, pretending to be dead. The cushion on the passenger seat was wet. Don't pee in my car. Niji shouted frantically. Damn it, FK. I have to find a pet doctor to castrate you. Niji threatened fiercely, took out a tissue bag from one side, and wiped the passenger seat. Driving away from here. Environmental protesters on the edge of the river beach have gathered here early, with a red rose painted on the banner. Meowmoo, took his mobile phone to learn more about it. There was probably a kind of wild rose on this river beach, but it was about to be developed into a river beach villa area, but the scenery here was really good. The Beetle drove past here, drove for a while, and then stopped. Niji took off the black hood he just bought from the console. In this area, when paired with this suit, he looked like a gangster. Bastion, stop sleeping and call Otis over. Niji took the M500 revolver, poked Bastion, who was still pretending to be dead, and pushed open the passenger door. Bastion raised his head and ran out in an instant. The speed could only be described as a gust of wind. TCH. Niji didn't know what to say, so he took out the holy flame hammer, lit the thin cigar in his mouth, and took a puff. After adjusting the rearview mirror again and checking his appearance to make sure that nothing was missing, Niji put on a pair of white gloves, got out of the car, and walked towards the research room in the woods ahead. The research room is actually an old-fashioned villa with 2 floors and a wooden tile roof. There's also a modified muscle car parked in the yard. You can't tell that Dr. Milo is quite wild. Boss, Otis, who looked like an intern in a black suit and a mask, walked over with a smile on his face. Thank you for your hard work. Niji raised her hand and patted him on the shoulder as encouragement, which made Otis smile even happier. How is the situation inside? Niji asked. 3 people came in just now. They should be shopping. They will leave in a while. We can wait a moment. Otis nodded. He has been monitoring here since yesterday. Hundreds of rats have gathered around him, but they can't get in. Once the mice enter the villa, they will be killed. Good. Niji nodded, followed Otis, and walked to the side, squatting down behind the bushes there. The underground here has been hollowed out by rats, and the terrain has dropped a lot, but the surface traces have not changed at all. Do you smoke? Niji took the thin cigar out of his mouth and turned around to ask. Otis shook his head quickly. Seeing him shaking his head, Niji put out the cigarette, but in his hand, and stuffed it into his pocket. As a police officer, no one knows how to commit crimes better than him. What are your plans to go back? You are an innocent person. Niji asked softly. FKU. Without your help, I wouldn't be where I am today. Your kindness and Mr. Nigma, Chill. Niji raised her hand to whisper. People came out of the research room, 2 men and 1 woman. The modified muscle sports car seemed to be driven by them. The engine of the muscle car roared, and the surging power was really a beast. Watching the muscle car go away, Niji held the M500 revolver and pressed it on Otis's shoulder. FK with me, and I won't treat my brothers badly. It was like this in the past, it is like this now, and it will be like this in the future. After saying that, Niji turned around and ran towards the research room. Otis quickly put 2 fingers in his mouth and blew a low whistle. In the surrounding woods, it was like a strong wind was blowing, and hundreds of mice came running in unison, heading towards the research villa. Inside the villa, a Czech wolf dog lying on the ground opened its red eyes and its ears twitched. What's wrong? Apollo? Dr. Achilles Milo, who was counting money at the dining table, glanced sideways and asked, Is there a mouse? After he raised this question, the Czech wolf dog named Apollo stood up. Dr. Milo's face darkened, and he reached for an Uzi submachine gun fixed onto the dining table. Chapter 84, Leaving in a place like Star City. Dr. Milo has 2 skills if he dares to negotiate the price with those mercenaries. Otherwise, even the Olympic champion werewolf would tear him into pieces, but he really couldn't remember who was so brave and dared to cause trouble for him. The Czech wolf dog began to grow in size and stared outside. Although it was not the first time he saw it, Dr. Milo always felt excited every time he saw this scene. This is a myth. This is a miracle. The wooden door was kicked open with such force that the entire door was knocked down. Ouch! Apollo, the Czech wolf dog, also turned into a giant wolf more than 2 meters tall, with 4 paws on the ground, and rushed towards the door. Niji looked at the giant wolf rushing towards him and commented, This dog is really big, and it has a furry coat. The next second, the giant wolf rushed towards him, and Niji raised his leg and kicked him on the lower jaw. The force was like an explosion, and the upper and lower teeth of the giant wolf were knocked together, causing the teeth to crack. Immediately afterwards, Niji kicked out again, and the giant wolf flew out, hit the wall, and fell to the ground. Ta-da-da-da-da. The Uzi submachine gun rang out with its unique rapid rate of fire, which almost shattered the door. Niji fell down quickly and immediately rolled up tactically, raised his hand, and shot the table. Sawdust was flying, green banknotes were flying in the sky, a little bit of blood was splashing, and Dr. Milo screamed, "Hey, doctor! Your welcome is quite lively." The M500 revolver spun twice in Niji's hand, flicked the gun, inserted it into the holster on his waist, and walked forward. Dr. Milo fell to the ground, covering his forehead scratched by sawdust, and screamed. Blood flowed from his forehead, turning his face red. "Originally, I didn't want to do this, but your bid is too high, and you are involved in too many things." Niji picked up the chair that had fallen to the ground and kicked it into pieces. He took the broken chair leg with sharp wooden thorns and pressed it against Dr. Milo's neck. "Don't. You won't get anything by killing me. If you want money, I'll get it to you. I have a lot of money here." Dr. Milo shouted quickly. He didn't want to die. He had gone through so much to have everything. "Have me die like this? I don't want to kill you. Let's make a deal." Meowji squatted down, moved the leg of the chair he was holding, pressed against Dr. Milo's right leg, and sneered. "Trade? What do you want to trade?" Dr. Milo asked quickly. "Freedom. I can let you leave Star City. I can also make you disappear. No one knows that you are still alive. I will not control you. You can go anywhere, as long as you don't provoke me." When Dr. Milo heard this, his expression changed, and he unconsciously turned his head to look at the door, as if he was afraid of something. You don't have to believe me. You are the only one who will die here. I was just negotiating a deal. If it fails, I can only say sorry." Niji looked extremely serious. If Dr. Milo really didn't want to choose the deal, the only option would be to kill him. He was involved in too many things. Nigma took a look at the list of names that had been investigated, and Niji felt a chill on his back. Mercenaries, killers, and even the League of Assassins are all related to this guy. Likewise, because of these relationships, he is under house arrest here and cannot go anywhere. "You promise to let me leave alive?" Dr. Milo asked unwillingly. In the heart of every scientific researcher, there's a scientific madman who wants to rule the world. "So why are you willing to be trapped here?" "Yes, but you have to leave something here. You are already dead." Niji made a gesture on his right leg with the chair leg, and Dr. Milo understood immediately. He gritted his teeth for the last time and said, "If I really die, you will get nothing." Dr. Milo closed his eyes resolutely. Niji nodded and stabbed the broken leg of the chair in his hand directly. Then Niji's hand shook with strength, and he chopped it off with a knife, causing blood to splash everywhere. Dr. Milo fainted from the pain. A few minutes later, Niji ran out of the house carrying Dr. Milo, who had fainted, and warned, "Destroy this place." Otis had already prepared the mice, and just after Niji and the others left, the entire laboratory villa exploded. The place where the explosion occurred was all support pillars. In an instant, the entire villa collapsed, covering everything underneath. Then the fire started, and the place would soon disappear. Although Nigma tied explosives to the rats, and the suicide attack was ineffective, it was still very simple for Otis to let the rats carry the explosives as engineers. "Drive and leave." Niji stuffed Dr. Milo into the coffin, poured him another mouthful of immortal wine, covered and tied the coffin, and asked Otis to drive away. Niji took a few stickers and slapped them on the windshield. They were now environmentalists. The Beetle drove forward, just in time to catch up with the parade. There were a bunch of file-size banners, hundreds of people gathered here, and a dozen cars inside. Niji and the others were following behind. After entering the city, they planned to move away from Star City and go to Metropolis. At Metropolis Beach, take the ferry back to Gotham by sea. "Hey, Otis, I'll open a company for you when you go back. How about being the boss?" Niji leaned on the passenger seat and breathed a sigh of relief. The road seemed quite safe, and he had time to chat. "At your command." Otis smiled and said, as if he wanted to smile back all the smiles he had lost in the past, looking very optimistic. Niji tapped her fingers and looked sideways at the parade outside, holding up flower pots and shouting that the flowers were going to die. "I really don't know if I really want to protect these flowers or if I want to exterminate them. It's very hot today. Halfway through the parade, someone threw flowers. We still had 3 kilometers to go to the city. It really took a lot of physical strength to hold this thing up, and it was not as light as a banner. Niji leaned out of the car window, picked up a pot of flowers on the ground, hung it on the windshield, took a sip from the sake bottle, and then sprayed it on. Logically speaking, the spring water of the Lazarus pool does not only have an effect on human beings, it has the effect of bringing the dead back to life. Niji sat back, took the vodka bottle on the side, and filled the jug. By the way, where's Bastion? Don't forget it. Only then did Niji remember the companion mouse that Otis carried with him. Bastion. Here, but it seems a little scared. Otis opened his suit jacket and found a large pocket specially sewn inside. Bastion hid inside and huddled up. Afraid? It even peed on my car. Niji smiled, shook the wine bottle, and listened to the sound of the Dionysus gem inside. Dong, dong, dong. Someone is knocking on the car window. Niji turned around and looked over, stretched out his hand to put down the car window, and grabbed the bottle in his hand to smash it at any time. Outside is a woman wearing a hat, a sports coat, a pair of glasses on her face, and a few small freckles on the bridge of her nose. She looks a little bit student-like. Hello, is there any water? The woman clasped her hands apologetically. I see you are also a member of the extremist Environmental Protection Organization. Can you lend me some water? Want vodka? Niji picked up the wine bottle in his hand and handed it out, staring into the woman's eyes. As long as she made any rash move, the bottle would hit her in the face. Huh? No, I want some water. No. The woman looked very embarrassed, nodded apologetically, and ran toward another car. Niji took back the vodka, poured a sip in her mouth, and looked around in the rearview mirror. The woman obviously borrowed water and ran forward. The seedling turned her head and saw that she was watering the wild roses. Madness. Niji capped the vodka, put it aside, took a breath of alcohol outside, and waited for the parade to move forward slowly. The skyscrapers in the city center were already clearly visible. Miyamu opened the car door, leaned out, and tore off all the stickers on the windshield. The potted flower was a little withered. Obviously, the effect of alcohol is not good for plants. Sticking the sticker on the plastic flower pot, Miyamu placed the flower pot on the ground and closed the car door. Otis turned the steering wheel, stepped on the accelerator, and rushed out as the parade passed the intersection. The beetle ran all the way along the main road and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Only the pot of wild roses remained in place, gradually spreading its leaves and becoming lifelike, and was picked up. Chapter 85 returned to Gotham. The last ferry arrived at the port of Gotham City at 8 o'clock in the evening, and trucks drove down from it. Niji's beetle also drove off staggeringly. When he returned to Gotham, he could immediately feel that this place was completely different from other cities. It's not the bright lights of a metropolis, nor the darkness of the night like Star City, but the sound of sirens ringing everywhere, the flashing red and blue police lights flashing rapidly on the walls of high-rise buildings. There are also some occasional screams in the darkness, and the smell of sin that hits your face is really addictive. Gotham at night is no ordinary bustling place. Miyamu lowered the car window and squinted his eyes comfortably, feeling the oncoming night wind. It rained for a while in the evening, and there was still a moist smell in the air. Sirens sounded nearby, and a Hummer police car followed from behind. The police lights flashed, and the people in the car honked their horns twice. That slow beetle in front of you. Stop immediately and check. Stop immediately and check. The communication horn on the police car shouted loudly. Niji knew it was the BD Jerry as soon as he heard it. He smiled and turned to look behind him. There were 3 police cars painted in black and white, with their lights flashing, following closely behind. To take precautions, Niji also made preparations in Gotham in advance. He himself was a local snake after all. Jerry, you deserve a beating. Niji shouted to the back. A police car passed from behind, drove in front of the beetle, and opened the way with its siren on. The convoy was quite large. Ahead, turn right and park. Niji sat back in the car and pointed to an underground parking lot on the right. Otis quickly turned the steering wheel and drove the beetle in, followed closely by the two police cars behind him. The sun lamp in the parking lot was very dim. The Beetle was parked aside, and Meow Moo opened the door and got out. The police cars following behind also stopped. Jerry pushed open the car door and came out, gave Meow Moo a bear hug, picked him up, and spun him around 3 times. Okay, let me go. You stink. Niji pretended to be disgusted and pushed Jerry away. He raised his hand and rubbed his face. I've gained weight. I've eaten well during this period. Stop talking, just listen. Jerry opened his mouth and breathed a sigh of relief, and Niji quickly waved. The urine IP now smells like coffee. Chief Gordon is awesome, Jerry said with a fearful expression on his face. There's nothing more terrifying than working overtime with a workaholic. No, there is also one that is working overtime for 3 days in a row and drinking coffee as water. Okay, is the hospital I asked you to make an appointment ready? Niji raised his hand and put it on Jerry's shoulder and asked. It's all done. Just send it over. Jerry whispered. Niji nodded and looked at the young policeman Milo standing next to the police car, but the police badge on his body had been upgraded to detective. Come here, Milo. You've made a difference. Niji said with some surprise. From a police officer to a detective, it takes at least a few years. Brother Meow, I went to the crime squad to get this thing. Milo scratched his head in embarrassment. This had become his habit, but he had been transferred from the Arkham Police Department, so he seemed a little embarrassed. That's a place where only elites can go. Do your best. Don't embarrass the Arkham District. If you stand out, our faces will shine as well. Come on. Niji clenched his fists and made a cheering gesture. Yes. Milo saluted quickly. Send the person away and give me the police car. I'll help you on duty today. Niji reached out and pulled off Jerry's coat and put it on himself. Ugh. I've been waiting for your words. Jerry greeted people cheerfully and together with Otis removed the coffin from the roof of the Beetle. Jerry made another phone call, by the way, and 5 minutes later, a professional van pulling coffins drove over and Jerry and Otis left with the coffin. Niji put on his police uniform jacket, put his police badge in his pocket, put on his police hat, turned around and shouted, What is your mission today? Those from Arkham District will return to Arkham, and those from the Crime Division will return to the Crime Division. We have no mission. The police officers in another police car raised their hands and shouted. They looked at the seedlings with very happy expressions. Can you not be happy? Niji is an Arkham police station, and the money he brought them to catch up with half a year's salary bill. Who can they have trouble with? And they can't make trouble with the boss who made them rich together. If you don't have any tasks, then go home early. Go back and spend time with your wife and children. Singles without a wife, come and get $20, and I'll invite you to go have a go. Niji grinned and took out a wad of bills from his pocket and waved them at them. Hurry up and get the money. Those generous sisters will crush you to death with their 36D big breasts when they look at the money. This was a joke that was neither too big nor too small, but also a bit gangster, which made the surrounding police officers laugh. The scene that was originally a bit lively now became much more harmonious in an instant. After a while of commotion, Niji threw a handful of money to express his feelings, and the Arkham District police officers began to evacuate. 2 police cars left the parking lot one after the other. Niji sat on the long-lost urban Hummer, still a little uncomfortable, holding the steering wheel to find out the feeling. What should I do with that car? Milo put on his police hat and looked at the Beetle parked in the parking space with the door open. Report the loss from me tomorrow. If you lose it, just throw it away. Niji said nonchalantly that the mission of this car has been completed, and the shape of this car is too conspicuous, so it would be best if it disappeared. Understood. Milo nodded and raised his hand to restart the car's warning channel. In order to meet the seedlings, they skipped work directly, and Gordon thought they were out to investigate the case. What's the latest news in Gotham? Niji turned the steering wheel and let the Hummer police car drive out of the underground parking lot onto the road and drove towards the Gotham police station. Yes, a new gang has appeared in the Belila district. It is very powerful and has taken over that area in just a few days. The Belila district, the Upper East Side, the Upper West Side, and the Arkham district are also known as the Four Corners district with the highest crime rate. In many places here, even the police dare not enter. Who is the new boss? Niji asked curiously. Black Mask. He has a lot of ruthless men, and he has taken over some of the Maroney family's territory. Marrow added, he wore a black skull mask. It is said that the mask on his face cannot be taken off, and he has a very cruel personality. Several cases in the homicide department are related to him. Joker. How much do you know? Niji habitually took out cigarettes from his pocket, but there was only an empty cigarette case, which he had finished smoking on the way. Here, it's a Marlboro. Milo handed over the cigarettes he smoked, and Niji didn't refuse. He took one and put it in his mouth. Milo took a lighter and lit the cigarette for Niji. Huh, I remember you don't smoke? Niji held the cigarette between his fingers, flicked the ashes outside in front of the car window. I'm used to it. There's no one in the crime team who doesn't smoke. They can't stand it. Milo smiled bitterly and began to explain Joker. This is a criminal who recently came out. The crime team has traced it and found 3 murders related to him. A Joker playing card, the most common kind, will be left at the crime scene. So far, we don't have any clues about him. We can only confirm that he is a male, about 33 years old, and may have worked in a circus. Furthermore, according to the speculation of our psychological experts, this guy's methods of committing crimes have become more and more precise. You may not believe it, but he actually used a broken wine glass to kill 2 people in a row. This is normal. Didn't Batman pursue it? Niji asked, taking another drag on the cigarette. Brother Meow, you'd better not talk about Batman in the police station. You can't talk about anything related to him. It doesn't matter. Dee. This is the Gotham Police Department. Jerry, where are you? Can you come over for support? Gordon's voice rang. Milo reached out and picked up the pager. This is car number 16. I'm Milo Scully from the Major Crimes Unit. We're on 3rd Avenue, about to approach the intersection of Route 175. You go to the old city of Gotham. According to the police, the female star by Cardina has been kidnapped. The local police station has deployed the arrest. You go to the scene and have a look. There must be no mistakes. Yes, by the way, Bicadina, is she the female star who starred in the girls' boudoir? Milo asked curiously. How do I know? Gordon roared angrily. Go and watch the scene for me. I'll be there soon. Don't act rashly. This is the Roman's mistress. You'd better be honest with me. Do you understand? Gordon warned again worriedly. Once Milo heard that she was the mistress of the Roman Falcone, his curiosity suddenly disappeared. Niji next to him became a little curious and took the beeper from Milo. Romans? What's going on? Niji. Gordon was obviously a little happy when he heard this voice and quickly explained, I just received the call, but this is a big deal. Don't make the Romans crazy. I don't want Gotham to turn into a damn battlefield. Chapter 86, Whose Mistress? By Cardina, a once famous female star in Gotham. With long, pale golden hair, big blue eyes, handsome face, and young and sexy body, she is as beautiful as an elf coming out of fairyland. However, she only made 1 movie and then disappeared from the film industry. When she reappeared, she followed Falcone to attend a banquet for Gotham's upper class. Falcone is already a man who wants to marry, and he has found a 20-year-old mistress, so damn enviable. Niji drove straight to Gotham Old City, which was originally the original Gotham City Center and the original Wayne Tower building. However, as the population increased and times changed, the city center gradually moved away, and this became the place where some celebrities, mansions, and old houses passed down by their families were located. The Wayne family's mansion is the original skyscraper-like Wayne Tower. When it was built in Gotham City, it was a landmark building just like the current Wayne Group headquarters. It was planned and built by Bruce Wayne's great-great-grandfather, Alan Wayne, one of the founders of Gotham City. Most of the buildings on the street have Gothic spire styles. Although they look old on the outside, the houses are magnificent inside. Bicardina's home is a European-style villa. The overall style is ivory white, just like the Princess Castle in fairy tales. It is really a golden house, hiding a beauty. Niji parked the car on the side of the road. There were already many cars parked next to it. The police from Gotham Old City were standing outside. They looked more like security guards than police officers, although they were similar. Here, the biggest task of the police in Gotham's Old City is to protect this villa area, and the most common cases here are theft cases. No one knows that there will be a treasure trove in that house. Crime Squad, Milo shouted, taking out his police badge. The old city policeman standing at the door glanced at Milo and the others in surprise, then moved out of the way without saying anything, even looking forward to it. Milo walked in immediately. Niji threw the cigarette butts on the ground and stamped them out. He turned around and looked around. The number of cars parked on the street was wrong. There were too many. What are you doing? I'm a detective from the crime unit. Milo shouted in the yard, and Miamu quickly walked over. In the yard were a group of guys wearing black windbreakers with fierce eyes. Their aura was like a group of German wolfhounds. After blocking Milo from the outside, Miamu noticed that these people had weapons under the hems of their windbreakers, but they were not exposed. Milo was pushed away, his expression a little ugly. Arkham Police Department is handling the case. Get out of here. Niji took out his M500 revolver and put it on the head of the guy blocking the road. At the same time, he kicked out, and the guy in front of him who was blocking the way flew backwards with a bow and hit the door. The people around him quickly picked up the weapons in their hands, all Thompson submachine guns, also known as Chicago typewriters. With their windbreakers, suits, submachine guns, and this unified posture, Niji also knew who these people were, the Roman Praetorian Guards. It seems that the Roman who hides the beauty in the Golden House has already arrived, but if the situation was not wrong, Niji would really want to laugh. Ooh. A man hurriedly walked out of the room. Looking at the Imperial Guard lying on the ground, his expression suddenly became serious, but when he saw Niji, he blinked again. Niji was a little surprised when she looked at him. It was none other than Oswald, the penguin from the Upper East Side, wearing a black suit and a bow tie hanging around his neck. He looks more like a waiter, mainly because of his height. He doesn't have that intimidating aura. Ahem, the Arkham Police Department is handling the case. We received a call, and Miss Vicardina was kidnapped. I am Detective Niji. Niji coughed and spoke in an official tone. After all, in this situation, the two of them couldn't talk like brothers. Oswald also understood immediately and gave Niji a look. It was not unreasonable for this guy to be able to sneak out. His ability to observe words and emotions was first class. It has nothing to do with you. Get out! Oswald's voice was loud, and he deliberately took a step back so that the people in the room could hear him. Someone spoke in the room, as if asking who was outside. Oswald hurriedly ran in, and after a while, he came out and looked at the seedlings, nodding slightly to indicate safety. Come in. With that said, Oswald got out of the way. Niji and Milo walked forward, but Oswald raised his hand to stop him. You can't bring the gun in. Give it to me. Oswald stretched out his hand and asked for a firearm, and Niji handed him the M500 revolver in the holster. The shape of this gun was much larger than an ordinary revolver, and it was heavy to hold. Milo also handed his sidearm to Oswald, and the two were searched again before walking in. The decoration in the house feels very palace-like, with silver-edged ceilings, crystal hanging lamps, and classical furniture combinations. But what concerned Niji the most was a man standing by the wall, wearing a black peaked cap, a long black windbreaker, and a series of counting scars on his face. Scars composed of 4 short horizontal lines and 1 long horizontal line were densely crisscrossed on the face, with murderous intent in his cold eyes. Victor Zass. Niji recognized him immediately. There was no one except him, a pervert who cut himself after killing people. Victor Zass, also known as Mr. Zass, is a famous killer in Gotham. He practices unarmed combat for 16 hours every day and is a master of combat. Rather than using firearms, he preferred to use knives or other objects to tear those people's necks apart. Every time he kills a person, he cuts himself with a knife. The dense scars on his body can be said to have killed hundreds of people. Zaz's eyes were also fixed on the seedlings, and the corners of his mouth twitched to reveal a charming sneer, as if he had spotted a good prey. Niji also clenched his fists and glared at him fiercely. The two of them were so majestic that they were like the tip of a needle facing a wheat on, without flinching. Milo and Oswald didn't know what to do when they saw this scene. Falcone, who had been silent at the table on one side, raised his head and glanced. I took another look at the seedlings. They looked familiar. Vidic, Falcone called. Vidoxa smiled and turned his head, no longer paying attention to the seedlings. And the seedlings also turned to look at Falcone. Wearing a neat suit, Falcone looks like he is on a date, spinning a playing card in his hand. As long as she lives, I'll pay you $30 million, and you policemen won't have to worry about it. Falcone threw the playing cards in his hand on the table, face up, and it was a grinning Joker card. In playing cards, they're also called ghost cards and trump cards. The moment Niji saw the playing cards, his face suddenly darkened. Joker! Falcone picked up the wine glass on the table and took a sip. The red wine was as rich as blood. There are dishes on the dining table, and there is a gold candlestick next to it with pink candles on it. It seems that the romantic candlelight dinner has become exclusive to one person. Crime Unit Gordon, get out of my way. Holding up his police badge and ID, Gordon walked in furiously. Ignoring Zaza's gaze, he walked directly to Falcone and slapped his badge on the table. Excuse me, how did Miss Vicardina disappear? Are you interrogating me, Mr. Sheriff? Falcone asked angrily. After years of experience, he could control his mind steadily and not be overwhelmed by anger. However, he is not a good old man without a temper. Those who were canned in the slaughterhouse have the most say on this point. Putting down the wine glass and picking up the napkin to wipe his mouth, Falcone looked at Gordon and threw the napkin in his face. Get out! Gordon grabbed the napkin in his hand and slammed the table. Falcone, you will eventually pay the price for what you have done, but what happened to Miss Vicardina's disappearance? It has nothing to do with you. Falcone said solemnly, whether it was him as the godfather of Gotham's underworld or the laws of the mafia. He is not allowed to bow to the police, let alone ask the police for help. That is a sign of cowardice and incompetence. No matter who this green-haired Joker is, he will pay a heavy price for his actions. The Gotham Police Department, the major crime team, is responsible for this case. We will bring Miss Vicardina back safely. Please cooperate. Now, let's go. Falcone did not stand still, but stood up and left. When he passed by Niji, he said softly, I remember you. Niji curled his lips in embarrassment. Oswald ran at the front. Apparently, his current position was to saddle Falcone and act as an errand boy. After Falcone left, Niji walked to the dining table, reached out, and picked up a piece of steak dipped in sauce and stuffed it into his mouth. While chewing, Niji tapped the playing cards on the table with his fingers. Joker did it. Is there anything you can do? Chapter 87 Watercolor the terrifying cloud that will hang over Gotham in the future. Joker is stepping onto the stage to show off his unparalleled madness. But now Chief Gordon has completely failed to realize the seriousness of this matter, or is somewhat powerless. Niji didn't say much, and he didn't have any special information for Joker. He just reported at the Gotham Police Station and officially returned to the Arkham District Police Department. But he met Joker just after he came back, and he seemed pretty good. Niji also wanted to meet this thunderous existence. But the current problem is to have people from the logistics support technical team come over to check the situation and figure out how Miss Vicardina was kidnapped. For Gordon, tonight is another sleepless night. Niji, on the other hand, put on his coat and went to sleep in the car after the crime team took over. He was not a member of the crime team, so there was no need to work in vain, and he had been working hard all day. He is also very tired. Instead of wasting all together, it is better to go to bed early and recuperate. Besides, Falcone will not be idle, and the storm in Gotham is no longer calm. I just don't know who will win this time. The night in the darkness of Gotham, Batman wandering around Gotham City at night, also ended his patrol for the night, laid down in the Batmobile, activated the autopilot mode, and returned to the Batcave tiredly. In the Batcave, Alfred was well prepared. When the Batmobile crashed through the waterfall and rushed in, he unfolded his umbrella in front of him to block the splashing water. The engine of the Batmobile quieted down, and the top compartment opened. Batman covered his arms and stepped out of the car. The remaining water stains on the metal floor were also dyed red with blood. Master Bruce, you need to rest. Alfred ran over to support Batman and walked towards the operating table on the side. On the way, Batman took off his hood, revealing Bruce Wayne's face. His face was pale, and fatigue accompanied by black eyeshadow seemed to be engraved on his face, making him look very weak. Lying on the operating table, Alfred put on gloves and began the suturing operation skillfully. He could no longer remember how many times he had used a needle to sew something. If possible, he would rather sew some rag dolls for children to play with, rather than sew up the skin and flesh here for a show-off person. You can't go on like this. You have limits. Batman has no limits. Bruce frowned slightly with his eyes closed. He was lying on it, almost falling asleep. Can you tell me why? I'm really worried. Maybe one day, I won't be able to wait for the car to take you back. Revenge. Bruce said everything about him in a concise manner. Okay, the wound is sutured. You can change your clothes. It's best to go up there and take a nap. We'll talk about other things tomorrow. Bruce opened his eyes, got off the operating table, and took off his armor, which was riddled with bullets. The firepower of those bastards increased again. Who would have thought that a gangster robbing a store could hold a submachine gun in his hand? I hope you will sleep in bed instead of sitting in front of the computer and continuing your tasks. Alfred took off his gloves and said helplessly, I won't put things off until tomorrow, and neither will the criminals. Besides, it's not too late now. Bruce adjusted the back computer and began to browse Gotham's criminal records. Alfred glanced at the watch on his wrist. Well, it will be dawn soon. He picked up the armor on the ground and hung the equipment on the shelf on the side. He's back, Bruce whispered softly, tapping his fingers on the computer a few times. There were only a few cameras at the intersection, and the figures and photos of seedlings popped up, and the information comparison had begun. Arkham Police Department, Senior Detective Niji. This young police detective probably won't like the bats flying around in the sky. You should have a drink and rest early. As if by magic, Alfred brought out a glass of rich milk from behind and placed it in front of Bruce. Bruce took a sip of milk, adjusted the computer, and determined the official database of the Gotham Police Department. After what do you think his name should be? Bruce put the Joker's playing card on the screen and started spinning it. The Joker on it was grinning widely. The Joker in the circus is a person who makes people laugh, but in this scene, it seems very uncomfortable. Alfred said truthfully, Bruce looked at the latest case of the major crime team, the kidnapping of Cardinal. Under the back computer's search, Picardina held Falcone's arm, and photos of celebrities visiting celebrity places popped up one by one, as well as proof of assets in her name. Master, I still want to remind you that you should rest. Doodle la 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 la. Dong dong dong. There was a fierce drum beat, and along with the gong, the curtain on the stage suddenly opened. Joker, who had pale skin and dark green hair, walked out from behind, raised his hand and shook it around, as if to say hello to the audience. Then, Joker performed a tap dance on the stage, stacked with wooden boxes, clasping his waist with both hands, making a scraping sound with his big leather shoes on the wooden boxes. Wow, look who this is. Who am I? Joker asked loudly, putting his hand to his ear and tilting his head, as if listening to the answers from the audience below the stage. Joker! Joker clapped his hands, jumped up, stepped on the board hard, and pulled a rope next to him. A spotlight shone on him. That's me. Joker hooked his hands on his lips, followed the wound on his cheek with his fingers, and pulled out a big smile that was ferocious, twisted, and terrifying. Woo 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 woo. Bicadina, who was tied to the chair, shook her head and struggled fiercely. She wore a green wig that looked like aquatic plants on her head, and her face was painted with exaggerated Joker makeup. She shed tears due to fright, and the makeup was ruined. Joker put his fingers to his mouth and blew, then took out a revolver from his arms and stuffed it into his mouth. Then, looking blankly at Bicadina below the stage, there was a click, and Joker pulled the trigger and shed tears. Ee-ha-ha. Joker raised his head and laughed wildly, with tears falling from his face. He pointed the pistol at the ceiling, pulled the trigger, and made a bang. Joker was so frightened that he trembled all over and dropped his gun on the ground. He lowered his head and a shadow enveloped his face. Don't be so serious in life. Falcone will spend money for you, right? You are the most beautiful little cutie. Joker raised his head, turned into a cheerful expression, and jumped off the stage. This was in a warehouse. It didn't originally belong to Joker, but after Joker took a crowbar and knocked a hole in the administrator's head, the place became his, and no one has objected until now. Chapter 88 Joker's Shock begins. Throw away those damn donuts in your hands. Try what real Chinese food is. If you eat those things again, you will all become Sheriff Bullock. You will not be able to run away, let alone catch criminals. Early in the morning, Niji bought a bunch of breakfast from Chinatown and shared the breakfast at the Major Crimes Division office of the Gotham Police Department. Oh my God, Niji, you are so considerate. A policewoman who stayed up late and worked overtime almost shed tears when she saw Niji handing over the steaming buns. The working hours of the crime unit meant that they had time to eat, leaving only donuts from the 24-hour store. There are also 2 coffee machines that Chief Gordon bought at his own expense. The other one was prepared for them by Chief Loeb. Moo, I love you. If I were a woman, I would marry you. A middle-aged police detective stuffed the bun into his mouth and drank a glass of soy milk. Although Chinese food does not suit their taste, it is so delicious compared to eating greasy donuts. Get out. Niji scolded with a smile and gave each member of the night shift a breakfast. The crime team works in 2 shifts. Gordon is the boss of one team and part-time captain of the crime team, and Bullock is in charge of the second team. Although this bunch of tired cows and horses look quite embarrassed, these people were all personally invited by Gordon one by one. They are honest, reliable, and have the ability to work. The most powerful thing is that the average level of these people is that they're all police detectives. They're the backbone of serious police officers and a sharp knife prepared by Gordon to fight the corruption in Gotham. Have you got a clue? Niji pushed open the door of the captain's office. The thick smoke in the room was like a fire. Fortunately, the building of the Gotham police station is relatively old and does not have smoke sensors. Niji walked over and opened the window. The sun was shining outside. It was a rare good day. He threw the breakfast bag on the desk. Gordon got up from the table and put on his glasses. What time is it? I have to go out. Have you brought the records from the investigation department? Brother, you must be too busy. Sheriff Bullock has begun to take over the shift. I see that the brothers who went out to keep an eye on people have also returned. You should go back and take a rest. Niji took a look at the 2 trace reports on the table, as well as the detection of the playing card and the footprint detection. No time. We have to find this Joker before Falcone. How did they get their ransom? Do we have anyone following him? Gordon wiped the corners of his eyes and asked. The ransom has been prepared. Falcone took the serious route. Sheriff Bullock was watching the cash withdrawn from the bank. The delivery time is not yet clear. Niji flipped through several reports and then flipped through other materials. The intelligence information on Gordon's side was not ordinary, and almost all the information from the Gotham Police Department was compiled. There are many that are too late to be uploaded to the computer. By the way, what day is it today? Gordon suddenly remembered something and woke up from his hazy sleep. Thursday is an annoying day. Do you have a date? Niji asked with a smile. My daughter is coming back today. Fake, Gordon looked anxious and raised his hand to scratch his hair. Your daughter? Barbara? Niji asked after thinking for a while. Barbara Gordon, the famous network hacker Oracle, fights against the evil Oracle kids. It should be, you're about to graduate from college now, right? I knew it. I forgot, damn. What time is it now? Gordon asked with a glimmer of hope. Niji glanced at the clock on the wall. It's 10 o'clock noon. Gordon raised his head in despair. I'll make a call first. He quickly picked up the phone on his side and dialed. Captain, a police detective opened the door and ran in, shouting loudly. We found Joker. When Gordon heard this, he quickly stood up and was about to direct the action, but Niji pinned him down on the chair. You should communicate with your daughter, and I will help you call the police. Niji took off his jacket and was wearing a thick police bulletproof vest with the GCPD logo on his chest. Gotham City Center, 3rd Avenue. A black business car was driving crookedly on the road, and suddenly the door was pushed open. The driver was thrown down and hit the ground head first, breaking his neck and leaning to the side. A person wearing a princess mask with loose golden hair reached out to close the car door, took off the mask, and threw the wig out together. His appearance was reflected in the rearview mirror, with pale skin, red lips, and dark green hair. It was the Joker who had just robbed the ransom car. Ho, we are together, right? Joker looked at the approaching police car in the rearview mirror, smiled, patted the money bag beside him, and stepped on the accelerator to the bottom. The black business car roared, speeding up to its highest speed, followed by the police car chasing after it. Bullock held the steering wheel in one hand and the pager in the other, requesting the surrounding police stations to cooperate in supporting and contain Joker. Ho ho ho, look what this is. Joker looked at the police car that was approaching from the front, turned the steering wheel, and hit it without hesitation. The police car was knocked crooked, and the tires of the black commercial vehicle were also skidded by the impact. Joker turned the steering wheel with a maniacal laugh and drove towards the other side of the road. The surrounding police cars also gathered around, like a pack of hunting wolves chasing the black business car. Let's see if there are any surprises. Joker took out a simple infinite detonator with several buttons on it and pressed it casually. The sewer manhole cover was blown away, and a police car just drove past. The bottom of the car was blown away by the impact of the explosion, as if it had been hit by a fired shell. It flipped twice in the air and hit the roadside heavily. Before the police officers in the car could escape, the police car exploded violently and shattered all the surrounding windows. Several pedestrians on the road were also affected, and one of them was directly turned into a bloody man by the broken glass. Hee-ha! Seeing the explosion behind him, Joker was as happy as if he was on stimulants. He stepped heavily on his foot again and pressed the button in his hand. There was a loud explosion, like thunder falling. A truck parked on the side of the road was lifted up by the impact of the explosion. It was torn into two pieces by the explosion like a toy and fell heavily on the road. Several cars on the road that had no time to dodge were hit by the wreckage of the truck, and they exploded together, with flames shooting into the sky. The scene looked like they had been bombarded by heavy artillery. Oh! The police car behind quickly stopped the car to avoid crashing into it. The burning fire, accompanied by black smoke, made everyone present wonder if they had not woken up. Is this apocalyptic scene really the work of a human being? The smell of burning in the air, as well as the burning car wreckage, accompanied by billowing black smoke, made some police officers immediately think of something bad going on. Rescue people quickly. Contact the fire station. Bullock got out of the car, looked at the scene on the street, and gave instructions quickly. FK. Naomu, who drove to support, heard the situation coming from the pager, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. In one encounter, 3 police officers were killed and 16 innocent people were affected. The street explosion caused even greater losses. This is really crazy. The corners of Meowji's mouth twitched, and he took the pager and began to make arrangements, asking people to prepare to block the road and not to pursue them. The reason why Joker is crazy and more terrifying than other criminals is because he does not need any consideration or price. Other criminals may do it for money, fame, or other things, but Joker is different. He just does it for fun. In the Batcave, Bruce Wayne, who was holding dumbbells and doing basic exercises, was awakened by the alarm sound of the Batcomputer. An urgent red alert popped up on the computer screen. Bruce quickly dropped the dumbbells, walked over, and clicked on the alert. A video screen popped up on it. Fire trucks were extinguishing the flames, and the injured were being carried into the ambulance screaming. Inside the charred remains of the car frame, the body that had been burnt to carbonization was mutilated and was pulled out of the car. The video screen rewinds, and the black business car appears. The screen is enlarged, then enlarged, and the definition is refreshed. In the driver's seat is a Joker face laughing maniacally. Bruce raised his hand and touched the screen, looking into Joker's eyes, which looked crazy with excitement. Bruce walked to the place where the equipment was stored and started to put on the equipment. When he got off the elevator, Alfred, who had brought him breakfast, came over. It seems that someone is getting busy again. Alfred put down his dinner plate and stood aside, watching Bruce Wayne put on his armor and omnipotent belt. I'll be back for breakfast. The voice changer made Bruce's voice hoarse. He randomly applied some black eyeshadow on his eyes and put on a mask. Batman clicked twice on the microcomputer on his arm, and the Batmobile's engine sounded like a beast waking up. Watching the Batmobile leave here, Alfred looked at the letter on the dinner plate, an invitation to the Zatara Circus. There have been so many things like this recently. Alfred shook his head and turned to control the Batcomputer to provide help to Batman. But an email from Wayne Group made Alfred wear reading glasses. The information in the email that was clicked was an email sent by Wayne Group's ocean-going transport ship to Earl William, president of Wayne Group. The message was very brief. Container now. H destined for Afghanistan was robbed. Obviously, this was another theft case. Alfred didn't care, closed the mailbox, and continued to check the computer. Although it is not good to check other people's emails privately, it is fine as long as the other person does not know. Watching the signal of the Batmobile driving on the map of Gotham City, Alfred still had time to temporarily check the price of Wayne Group on the stock market. Chapter 89 Joker's Shock, Act Warehouse District. Teams of quick reaction units wearing black equipment arrived at the scene. This was another masterpiece of Chief Gordon. To be precise, it was the quick reaction force prepared by Gordon to take action as soon as possible after breaking up with Falcone. The manpower recruited, they're all retired soldiers and top students in the police station. Group B arrives at location. Team A arrives at location. On the rooftop of a building 500 meters outside the warehouse, a sniper holding a sniper rifle said to the pager. Group C arrives at location. On the road outside the warehouse, Meow Moo held the pager and said nothing, just looking at Bullock. It stands to reason that Niji is not high enough to command this roundup, but Bullock is a cunning thief and does not want to take any responsibility. He directly praised Niji as the on-site commander and got Police Chief Loeb to agree first. Act as planned, Niji said while holding the pager. He turned to look at the black business car that had hit the wall with broken glass and white airbags deployed. It was the car that Joker drove away. Before the engine was turned off, all the money in the car disappeared. $30 million in cash. Joker was asked to move it, and it took a while. There were still a few green banknotes scattered on the ground, like road signs, spreading all the way to the door of a warehouse. There was also half a banknote stuck between the two doors. Group A went directly to the roof of the warehouse. Group B broke through from the front, and Group C took cover. They were already familiar with this kind of training. A member of Team B leaned against the wall and made a gesture. A member carrying a breaking hammer rushed over, smashed open the door with a hammer, and threw 2 flash bombs in. As the sound exploded, Group A kicked the lighting window to pieces and descended directly, holding guns and looking left and right on guard. There were many curtains hanging in the warehouse, which were divided into many pieces, and there were hesitating sounds. The members of Group B attacked from the front, advancing forward in pairs, and both Group A and Group B moved towards the place where the sound was heard. As the last curtain was lifted, a Joker character doll was tied to a chair. There seemed to be a mechanism inside. The head shook and made a sound, and there was a sign hanging underneath. "Welcome to the Joker Theater. Ha ha, there's someone here," the members of Group shouted. The others quickly approached, and no one noticed at this time that the Joker doll stopped shaking its head. The people in Group A quickly lifted up the piece of cloth and saw a man wearing work clothes. A hole was opened in his head, and he had been dead for a long time. Ha 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 ha. The Joker doll suddenly laughed, and this terrifying smile made everyone present feel chills on their backs. Niji, who was temporarily directing outside, was holding a pager and was asking about the situation at the scene. The next second, Niji couldn't hear the sound, and he was confused, seeing the gazes of the people around him. Niji quickly turned his head. The entire warehouse behind him was blown up, and the surrounding glass was all shattered by the impact of the explosion. A big hole was ripped open in the roof of the warehouse. Everyone present was trembling in their hearts. Damn it! Niji picked up the gun and hurriedly called people over, but the sound of the explosion made their ears buzz. Only Niji ran over, and after just one glance, Niji almost spat out. The warehouse was completely like a meat mincing yard, the kind that was half-burnt. There's still some pungent chemical smell in the air. It is a liquid chemical bomb. 2 quick response teams, a group of 5 people gone. Ha 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 ha. Joker was sitting on the sofa, watching the news reports on TV with an exaggerated smile on his face. He grabbed a handful of popcorn and threw it into his mouth, scattering more than he ate. On the TV is a reporter's live interview report. "Chief Gordon, can you tell me why the police are losing money now?" A reporter pointed the microphone in front of Gordon. Gordon looked as if he had suddenly aged by more than 10 years. His hair seemed to have turned white, and the beard on his lips was messy. He squirmed several times but did not speak. All the good young men he could call out by name are now a corpse. No, a wreck that cannot even be put together. This kind of impact was difficult for him to accept, and he even didn't want to believe it, but he had to admit it. It's his fault. He didn't deserve it. The TV was turned off. The wrinkled old sergeant was no fun at all. Joker grabbed a handful of popcorn and threw it into his mouth, then turned to look at the bills stacked behind him. Stacks of banknotes were placed on the ground, like a table, but Joker thought it was more like cakes. There's also a beautiful ornament on it by Kadena. Her face is painted with Joker makeup, which is wet with tears and blurred into a ball, still unable to hide her beautiful appearance. But Joker did nothing else except apply makeup on her. She was still tied to the chair, and the rope was still wrapped around her body. This is on an unfinished building. The main frame of the floor has been raised, and this is Falcone's construction site. They all say that you are the most beautiful woman in the world, and this is the most lovable thing in the world. Joker picked up a wad of bills, patted his face, and threw it on the ground. With a crazy smile on his face, Joker clapped his hands and said, "The most beautiful woman and my favorite money. If these two things are burned together, will the burning flames look better?" When Bicardina heard this, she shook her head tremblingly. She didn't dare to think about what this madman would do, but she didn't want to be burned to death. She didn't want to die. Joker was holding a gasoline bucket, like a child about to open a gift, smiling expectantly. The gasoline was poured from Bicardina's head, and her pale golden hair stuck to her face. Vicardina let out a desperate whine. "Joker!" A roar sounded from underneath the building. When Joker heard the sound, he tilted his head, as if thinking, who is he calling? The empty gasoline barrels were thrown to the ground, making an empty, crashing sound. Joker stepped on the gasoline on the ground and walked to the edge of the building, when a black shadow suddenly flew up from below. He punched Joker in the face with such force that the bridge of Joker's nose was broken. Joker covered his nose and screamed in pain on the ground, struggling and rolling like a living loach thrown into a frying pan. The black figure stepped over, and Joker suddenly stopped screaming, took out a handkerchief from his pocket, snorted, and the white handkerchief was stained red by the nosebleeds. As if the person who screamed just now was not him, Joker turned his head and looked at the black figure. The sun was setting outside. There were two sharp horns on the head of the black shadow. As he got closer, Joker laughed, very happily. The blood flowing from the nose flowed directly into the mouth. "It's you. I remember you." Joker pointed at Batman in front of him, very happy. Batman looked cold, pinched Joker's finger, and broke it with a snap. The finger broke directly in the opposite direction. Joker looked at his fingers on the back of his hand and moved them a little, seemingly feeling no pain at all. "You're under arrest, Joker," Batman said coldly. "Oh, okay, you can catch me. I have committed a heinous crime, and I want to repent." Zubat. Joker's face suddenly changed, and he stretched out his hands pitifully, as if to put on handcuffs. Batman would not coddle him, and reached out to grab him. Joker stretched out his hand and held Batman's hand. Grinning, "I'm so bad." Batman felt his palms heat up, followed by intense high-voltage current, which instantly circled his body. The microcomputer on his arm overvolted and exploded. Batman was shaking all over, but the protection of his equipment and his strong body allowed him to shake off Joker's hand. The hand that was shocked by the electric shock kept shaking. Batman gritted his teeth and raised his hand to hit his leg twice before regaining consciousness. I thought I could kill you," Joker said with a disappointed look on his face. A black circular outline was burned out on the white gloves he was wearing. Batman gritted his teeth. This was the first time he had been teased like this, which made his already restless heart feel more angry again. He walked forward. Joker stood there, looking at Batman walking over, and blinked innocently, as if he wasn't the one who had done the trick just now. Batman raised his arm and punched Joker, sending him flying and falling to the ground. Joker coughed, spit out a mouthful of blood, and rolled on the ground like a naughty child. It hurts, the bat is bad, it's bad." Batman snorted and clenched his fists. No matter how much Joker pretended to be crazy, he would never let him go. But Batman miscalculated one thing. Joker was really crazy, not just pretending. Perhaps it was because his brain was born with uneven distribution. The right hemisphere of his brain was slightly larger than the left. It's impossible to predict what kind of move he will make next. Just like now, Batman raised his fist and hit Joker directly on the ground. Joker suddenly turned around and let Batman's fist fall to the ground. The ground felt shaking. Joker took out his pistol, which was a revolver left by the two robbers who invited him to rob the bank that night. He carried this pistol and walked on the street for a long time, trying to kill someone. In the end, he failed and was caught by the police. But seeing that there was nothing to squeeze out of him, he released him again, so he used this gun to kill someone. An old man or an old lady, because he raised a cat, and the cat didn't like him. Why? Why didn't the cat like him? So, he asked the old lady with a bullet. Chapter 90, Joker's shock. In the moment he saw the pistol, Batman instinctively dodged. These days, the bullets in his body are enough to fill a pizza plate. Bang! The gun went off. Batman jumped to the side and threw a batarang. Before Joker could stand up, he knocked away his pistol and scratched the back of his hand. Joker covered the back of his hands and screamed. This kind of fooling made Batman very angry, and he decided to let Joker spend this Christmas in the hospital. Dang, 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 I lied to you. Joker burst out laughing, but what greeted him was Batman's indestructible fist. Joker was knocked out again, and this time he landed next to the pile of money. Joker fell to the ground, looked at Bicardina, who was tied to the chair, and forced a miserable smile on his face. Angel, Angel, I'm so happy. Joker raised his right hand with broken fingers, grabbed Picardina's feet, and kissed them. Batman grabbed Joker's leg and dragged him aside. Joker screamed, even harder than before after being punched. No, don't let me leave Angel. I want her to become Angel. Joker turned around with an angry roar and kicked Batman in the chest. Batman, who was caught off guard by the kick, let go. Handed. Joker stood up angrily, raised his fists, and dealt a burst of damage to Batman. His attack was messy, but the swing was very powerful. It hit Batman, causing Batman to block and retreat. However, Batman also seized the opportunity. To be precise, it was Joker's arm, which he threw over his shoulder and slammed him to the ground. Batman did not hold back at all. Even a strong adult man would have to lie down after such a blow, and this was a real concrete floor. Just when Batman breathed a sigh of relief, Joker suddenly threw a plastic ball at his face with a pop. It's a prank toy, a fart cushion ball. The chemical smell made Batman stunned. Joker kicked Batman in the leg and rolled up. He stood up straight, as if he was unscathed, but immediately Joker covered his body and screamed. Just like being handsome for only 3 seconds. Batman looked at Joker. In the past, he used various props to teach others, but this was the first time he was dealt with like this. Look, Angel appears. Joker stood on the edge of the building without guardrail protection and pointed at Bicardina, who was tied to the chair. Batman quickly looked over and saw a thin lead falling into the gasoline on the ground with a squeaking sound. The flames burned instantly like an explosion, and Bicardina inside was swallowed by the flames. Without thinking, Batman rushed towards Vicardina, opened the cloak behind him, and fiercely protected Vicardina inside. His strong hands instantly shattered the chair. Batman held Bicardina, who was still burning and screaming, and jumped down from the building. When he came up, he saw an industrial pool below with water in it. This is the 6th floor. A splash of water appeared in the industrial pool in the lower right corner. Joker, who was standing upstairs, blinked, put his hands behind his back, and quietly walked away. The blood flowing from his face dripped onto the ground. Batman is really fake. Joker's voice sounded from the darkness and disappeared again. In the Gotham Police Department, Jerry led a group of Arkham policemen and broke into the headquarters office. Nigma stood in the crowd, pushed up his glasses, and glanced at the police bosses sitting at the conference table, discussing how to shirk responsibility. Police chief, deputy chief, superintendent, police inspector. The lowest ranking person in front of this table is the police chief. Who let you in? Get out. sitting next to the conference table. The captain of the special operations team, Ferraz, was the first to stand up and shout, especially when he saw Jerry. Enemies are extremely jealous when they meet. Ferraz wanted to punch Jerry to death. Last time in the toilet, he was beaten unconscious, but he lost all face. "We are here to pick up Sheriff Arkham. Need ye back." Jerry raised his head and shouted without fear, and the Arkham policemen behind him also raised their hands and shouted, "We are here to pick up the chief." What happened? Sitting at the head of the conference table, Police Chief Loeb, with a grim look on his face, shouted knowingly and glanced at Jerry and the others. "Tell the police chief that we are here to pick up Sergeant Neji of the Arkham Police Department and return to the Arkham District." Jerry raised his hand and saluted. Although they talk about accepting, their momentum means that if they can't greet you, they will just grab it. Especially Jerry's sturdy appearance, wearing a body armor, a pistol on his waist, and a grenade hanging outside the body armor. He is more convincing than anything else. Police Chief Loeb raised his hand and knocked on the table, saying in a cold voice, "Are you protesting against me? You are not a police officer anymore." A police superintendent slapped the table and stood up. "That's right. What do you guys look like? Are you forming gangs? This is a police station. It's not gangsters dividing their territory." "Young special." Jerry slapped the table directly. Just as he was about to curse, he was grabbed by Nigma from behind. In this case, it would not be good for anyone to break up the relationship. Nigma came out. "Hello, leaders. Our Arkham Police Department is currently short of manpower. Our chief is still on vacation, and several police chiefs are also very busy. It is the time to hire people. Chief Gordon borrowed Detective Neji to handle the case for the sake of Gotham. It's also for Gotham. We in Arkham District also need Neji. Please." Having said this, Nigma stopped talking. Everyone knows the rest of the meaning. The accident caused by Joker this time is more serious than the previous ones. Naturally, someone has to take the blame and be punished. 10 members of the quick response force died. This blame is too heavy. As for the temporary commander, Neji is naturally the best person to take the blame. Although his temporary command was personally appointed and approved by Police Chief Loeb, but so what? Credit goes to Police Chief Loeb for his proper command. Now that such a big thing has happened, the prisoner is still at large, and this case should not have been taken over in the first place. What's more, Gordon is also a big star now. He has long been displeased with him. At least, none of the people sitting at this table are displeased with him. For the Mayor's Mansion case, the Gotham Police Department received a large amount of sponsorship, but Gordon's crime team ate up most of it. The case is still under investigation. What do you mean? Loeb knocked on the table. Our Gotham Police Department has sacrificed so many police officers. What are you doing? Give us time, we'll catch Joker. You take the credit. We just want Nemo to return to Arkham. Nigma said in a deep voice. Okay, I agree. Loeb nodded. I'm very happy that we still have police officers in Gotham who dare to stand up and declare war on crime. You won't let me down, right? Yes. Nigma agreed. Then go out. Lobo made a gesture of seeing off guests. Nigma turned to wink at Jerry and the others, and a group of Arkham policemen retreated from the conference room. The conference room door closed again. Loeb's face darkened instantly after the door closed. Arkham, as the lowest-ranked police station, actually dared to stand on his opposite side. Police chief, just as a police sergeant was about to complain a few words, he was interrupted by Lobu raising his hand. Lobo looked at Froz. Isn't the Arkham Police Chief's vacation too long? I think the chaos in Arkham District is not an ordinary situation. It's the Internal Affairs Department, and they've been conducting strict investigations recently. A police superintendent said quickly, handed Lob a step up, and smiled flatteringly. Chief Gordon, the blow he received this time is relatively big. Let him rest first. Ferraz, you can work part-time as a major crime team. Yes, I will definitely make the crime unit even better. Ferraz stood up with a smile on his face, raised his chest, and raised his head. They knew very well where the crime squad was. Although they don't like Gordon's style, they have to admit that when Gordon selects people, ability is really not a priority. Chapter 91 in action after finishing the task notes. Miamu came out of the office and walked outside. Jerry and the others were waiting in the lobby of the police station. When they saw Niji coming out, they quickly stood up. Several policemen who were smoking and chatting also put out their cigarettes. Jerry asked with concern, "Moo, are you okay?" "Fine." Niji shook his head, looking at the group of Arkham District policemen in front of him. Niji frowned, and then he immediately understood. These are all here to escort him on the platform. Otherwise, those bastards wouldn't let him out so easily. It's really disgusting. Niji thinks he knows enough about Gotham. Corruption is nothing more than making money and looking ugly. However, I didn't expect that they would dare to attack heretics. When taking notes, Niji thought clearly that meeting Joker was just an opportunity for those people to pick peaches. The so-called responsibility for casualties and command failure are also excuses. The only real ones are rights and interests. Gordon has touched other people's interests. Both the crime squad and the quick response force have eaten up most of the funding resources. However, they had no reason to replace him. What Gordon wants to do is to exercise fairness and justice in the corrupt and chaotic Gotham, which can be said to be all enemies. Njai 5 days. Nigma stretched out his hand and waved 5 fingers in front of Niji. Catch Joker within 5 days. It seems that those old guys still underestimated me. Niji smiled disdainfully and turned to look at the second floor behind him. Police Chief Loeb's assistant was standing on the stairs, monitoring this area unabashedly. "Let's go." Miamu turned around and walked out at the lead. Jerry followed closely, and everyone else also left. After walking out of the gate of Gotham Police Station, Niji made arrangements. "Let Otis help. I had already looked for him when I came here. He was gathering rats to search, but there are too many people in Gotham. It's best to focus on one area for the search." Nigma pushed up his glasses, and the Riddler, who is shrewd and capable and uses high IQ to toy with his enemies, came online. A few hours ago, Niji was suddenly called back to the Gotham Police Station. Milo called. He felt something was wrong and immediately summoned Jerry and the others. Thanks to the fact that there was no one in charge at the Arkham Police Department, and Niji's prestige in the police station was also very high, Jerry just shouted a few words and pulled everyone over. In such a big case, everyone is happy if Joker is caught. But if Joker cannot be caught, whoever is in charge of this case will be unlucky. Go to Gordon's house first. The others will go on patrol and show me the addresses of all the chemical plants in Gotham. Just drive by, and there is no need to go in and search. Do you understand? Niji turned around and directed. The closest thing to Joker is the chemical factory. Whether it is the origin of Joker's multiple births or his criminal experience, chemicals are inseparable. Moreover, the warehouse explosion during the day was a chemical bomb, with such power that only chemical plants have enough raw materials. I've thought about this too and marked on my computer. I also found a screenshot of Joker. As Nigma spoke, he opened the rear door of the police car, took out the laptop, and a picture of Joker popped up on the screen. The grin was really scary. The corner of his mouth was cut open with a knife. He was wearing funny lipstick, and he had dark green hair. And those eyes made Niji look heavy, but when he saw Nigma on the side, Niji relaxed a little. The Riddler, with full power, is no worse than Joker, and even has an advantage in some places, although he is not one. Do it your way. Tell me if you need any help. Nigma shook his head. We have to catch his tail first. Otis is searching around the warehouse. There will be news soon. Besides, aren't you curious? What are you curious about? Niji was a little confused. Why did Joker kidnap Falcone's lover? Nigma was a little confused about this, and even suspected that there was someone behind Joker who wanted to disgrace Falcone. Don't think about it. Joker doesn't need a reason to kill the mayor. Niji was not confused at all. Get in the car. I have to go see this old guy Gordon first. Niji opened the door and got in the car. When something like this happened, it hit Gordon the hardest, and Niji didn't want this responsible old police chief to fall into disrepair. Gordon's house is on the second floor of an old apartment building. This apartment is not too old, and some of the facilities are aging. At least this rusty outer staircase once made the fledgling Batman almost fall to death. Dong, dong, dong. There was a knock on the door. Niji stood at the door, not knowing what to say. He kicked the stairs gently with his feet, and the door was opened. It was not Gordon who opened the door, but Gordon's daughter, Barbara, who was wearing a checkered apron and holding a spatula in her hand, as if she had just come out of the kitchen. "Who are you?" Barbara looked at Niji, standing at the door, a little confused. She didn't recognize this Chinese boy in police uniform. "Is Chief Gordon at home?" Niji asked. If it were another time and another place, and this mess hadn't happened, when Niji saw Barbara, he would definitely go over and ask the future Oracle man to call him uncle with the qualifications of an elder. However, now, Niji only has the grinning Joker in his mind and the account of more than 10 lives. "Dad, he hasn't come back yet. Do you have anything to do with him?" Barbara asked with some caution. There was a burning smell in the room. Barbara exclaimed and ran towards the kitchen. The bacon and eggs in the frying pan were already burnt. "Oh my God!" Barbara turned off the gas stove and put the pan aside. There was a cake on the dining table next to the living room. Today is Gordon's birthday, and it is also the birthday he least wants to celebrate. At least Barbara is looking forward to him coming back for dinner. After pouring the burnt eggs and bacon on the plate, Barbara quickly ran to the door again, but there was no trace of the seedlings anymore. Hula, a black shadow, fell next to her, startling Barbara, and she instinctively threw the spatula over. Batman reached out and grabbed the flying spatula, looked at Barbara, and asked in a deep voice, "Where will Commissioner Gordon go?" Batman on the roof had already heard Niji's inquiry just now. To be precise, he heard it through a bug. The bug was placed in the mailbox at the door, just enough to hear the sounds going in and out of the house. Although Batman at this time has a tendency to be immoral, he still pays attention to other people's privacy. Otherwise, this bug would have been planted on Chief Gordon, and he could do it. "Are you Batman?" Barbara looked curiously at the strong man in strange clothes in front of her. The sharp horn on his head didn't look like a bat, but like a big cat. "Where will Gordon be?" Batman repeated because he couldn't find Gordon. Gordon did not return to the police station. After leaving the hospital to visit the injured, Gordon seemed to have disappeared. He had something to do and needed to find Gordon. "I don't know, but he might go to the beach." As soon as Barbara finished speaking, Batman roared, flew to the top of the building with a rope, and disappeared without a trace. "Who is?" Barbara looked at the dark night sky and complained. "Not a good person." Niji's voice sounded from downstairs. Barbara was so frightened that she trembled and looked down quickly. Meowji squatted on the stairs below, holding a cigarette in his mouth. He waved to her, took out a lighter, and lit the cigarette. Meowji jumped down from the stairs, muttering a song to coax the children. A good child shouldn't open the door for others. He should wait until his father comes back. He should not open the door if anyone knocks. "I'm not a child," Barbara shouted angrily. Her impression of Gotham dropped to its lowest level tonight. Doesn't she feel like a normal person? Chapter 92, League of Assassins. Meow Moo walked out of the apartment building and took a puff of cigarette. The Hummer police car stopped at the intersection with its lights flashing. Meow Moo stopped, took a deep breath of cigarette, threw the cigarette but on the ground, and just raised his feet. A figure suddenly rushed from the right rear, and a dark dagger slashed towards Niji like a shadow. Murderous look. Niji's hair stood up instantly, as if he had seen a poisonous snake, that kind of discomfort coming from the bottom of his heart. Asking Niji to lift his legs is a backswing, regardless of whether the kick is hit or not, and he turns around and kicks again in an alternating series of kicks. The figure behind him moved very quickly, missing a single blow, and immediately got close to him. The dagger in his hand was dull, and the sharp blade was hidden behind the black paint. In this dark night, I can't feel it, let alone see it. The man got kicked by Niji, and the blade also scratched Niji's calf, leaving a bloody gash in his jeans. "Get out!" Niji shouted, grabbed the garbage bag on the side, and threw it at the man. The garbage bag was in the air and was cut open by the man with a knife, with a joking look in his eyes, but after the garbage bag exploded. Bang, 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 bang. The gunfire of the M500 revolver echoed around like two explosive kicks. The man's soul was filled with rage, and the playful look in his eyes turned into panic, and his body made a series of moves that could be called abnormal. However, the damage caused by the 500 Magnum bullet, even if it is a scratch, is a serious injury that can shatter flesh and blood. The man fell directly. One arm fell to the ground. Blood spattered everywhere, and his fingers were still trembling. Bang bang, flick, empty. The bullets in the seedling gun were empty. He took out the lighter from his pocket and put his fingers on the friction wheel and turned it. The holy flame hammer sounded, and with a click, white flames burned, holding it in Meow Moo's hand like a burning lightsaber. The figure who fell to the ground was like a wild dog with its back broken, wailing and crawling on the ground at a very slow speed. Unfortunately, his leg was broken, and there was a blood hole the size of fist file, spraying blood on his thigh. Niji approached step by step, but his eyes were scanning the surroundings. In the Hummer police car at the intersection, Jerry and Nigma heard the gunshots and quickly got out of the car with guns in hand. Mumu. Jerry quickly shouted forward, holding a gun in one hand and taking out a tactical flashlight in the other and shining it forward. After confirming that there were no other enemies around, Niji extinguished the flame of the holy flame hammer and took 2 quick steps forward. He stepped on the back of the man in front of him, reached out to grab his hair, and pulled off the hat on his head. He looked quite unfamiliar. He looked young. His forehead was covered with dense beads of sweat, and it hurt a lot. "Tell me, who asked you to come?" Niji asked while pulling his hair. The man shook his head and snorted, quite brave. "What's going on?" Jerry also ran over. Nigma held a small pistol in both hands and walked over timidly. He was really tired of this kind of hail of bullets. "Give me the gun." Niji reached out and grabbed the gun from Jerry's hand and fired 3 more shots at the man's still intact right leg. His thigh was broken directly. "Ah!" The man raised his head and screamed, his body shaking in pain. When Nigma saw this scene, he moved a little uncomfortably. Blood was flowing on the ground, and water splashed when he stepped on it. "He won't live long," Nigma reminded quickly. "Even an elephant couldn't handle this amount of bleeding." "It's not that easy to die," Niji said coldly. Taking out the jug from his arms, Meow Moo pinched the man's mouth, poured half of the jug into his mouth, raised his pistol, and put it on the man's head. "Tell me, who asked you to come?" Niji yelled angrily, like an angry lion, full of murderous intent, without even the slightest hint of joking. The man didn't show any fear at all. Instead, he grinned with a look of disdain on his face and gritted his teeth. Niji felt something was wrong and quickly opened his mouth. A mouthful of rich blood gushes out of his mouth, and his whole body twitched. "Poison lethal." Nigma covered his nose and took a look, confirming the situation. However, not only did the man not die immediately, but he struggled painfully, writhing like a fish that fell to the ground, and kept vomiting blood from his mouth. "What's going on?" Nigma was confused. This poisons are used to induce quick death, so why is it so painful? Niji did know a little bit, and put the wine bottle in his arms inside. It was really difficult to die. The man was twitching in pain on the ground. The lethal poison and the immortal wine created by the Dionysus gem were resisting each other, as if a world war was fighting in his body. Niji squatted down, looked at the man's painful expression, put the pistol on his head, and said in a deep voice, "Say it, and I will give you a ride." The man looked at Niji with a trace of prayer in his eyes, completely no longer willing to die rather than give in. Justice must be realized by oneself. Ugh. The man spat out a mouthful of thick blood again and looked at Niji pleadingly. But Niji's face was already cold. Justice must be achieved by oneself. In the DC universe, this slogan only represents an organization that punishes the world. They created a plague and sacked Rome, burned London to the ground with fire, and once wanted to use economic means to completely disappear Gotham. But they failed. That organization is called the League of Assassins, a killer organization that spans hundreds of years and was founded by the leader of demons, Lars Al Ghul. This name may not be familiar to you, but his other name, Lei Xiaogu, is very popular. Batman's master, old father-in-law, and enemies. It can be said that this ninja master played an important role in making Bruce Wayne the powerful Batman. Although he has nothing to do with ninjas, if there's a relationship, he is more like the king of assassins, teaching Bruce Wayne how to overcome fear and use fear as a weapon. "Are you from the Assassin's League? Why did you come to kill me?" Is there a bounty on my head? Niji asked with a frown. Although the League of Assassins nominally enforces justice, isn't that what the slogan is? In essence, it is still a killer organization, so it naturally has the task of killing people, and it is also part of the training. Bane, the giant man who broke Batman's back, could be considered a member of the League of Assassins, but he was just a transfer student who had been trained there, and he was not a brother to Batman. Ah, you are Vildi. The killer who wanted to assassinate Niji shouted crazily and stared at Niji with eyes full of hatred. I regretted it. You can wait here to die. Niji threw the pistol to Jerry, stood up, and walked outside. The assassin was stunned for a moment, but the severe pain in his body made him twitch. Nigma reached out and took a small thing he carried with him and placed it on the wall on the side. It was a camera. I originally got it out with the intention of putting it on Otis's portable mouse, but it just happened to be used now. Niji and the others left here, and only the assassin was struggling painfully on the ground. If he had a companion nearby, he would definitely appear, maybe sitting in the car. Niji took out his revolver and took out the quick loader he carried on his belt. The .500 bullet is not easy to carry, so Niji only brought a loader to pour out the cartridge case and load the bullet. Niji's mind was filled with thoughts. Chapter 93, Preparing the Trap. In the end, Niji and the others did not wait for the Assassin League, but instead waited for the ambulance. The person who called the ambulance, her name was Barbara, but the guy died before he was carried into the ambulance. He took poison and struggled for a full hour before he died. Niji returned to the Arkham police station and stayed up all night, relying on beer and cigarettes, writing and drawing in a notebook to record recent developments. The next day, Gordon returned to the Gotham Police Department and the Major Crimes Division, but the captaincy was transferred to Ferraz, who still served as the leader of the Major Crimes Division. Brother Gordon, I'm sorry. Niji leaned next to the police car. Sitting in the car, Gordon, who had just put 2 drops of eye drops on his eyes, sighed. Let's catch Joker together, otherwise I won't be willing to die. It's not just Joker. There are people coming to Gotham as well. Niji took out from his arms what he wrote last night. It was written based on the information collected by Nigma and the situation that Niji himself speculated. What is this? Gordon sat up and put on his glasses. He had severe myopia and couldn't see clearly without his glasses. Assassin's League? What's going on? Gordon just glanced at it and immediately grasped the information inside. It was a terrorist organization. The body is still in the hospital. He committed suicide by taking poison. Didn't Barbara tell you when you came home? She called the ambulance. Niji turned to look at the car. When Gordon heard this, he shook his head in shame. He led people to search Joker last night and discuss cooperation with Batman. I didn't go home. Niji raised his hand and patted the police car. Where's that big bat? Send this piece of paper over. That guy knows what to do. Gordon hesitated for a moment. No one knew about his agreement with Batman yet, but when he thought that Niji and Batman had known each other before, he didn't care. I will pass it on to him. By the way, do you have any ideas about Joker? Gordon put away the note and said, We found the raw materials for making explosives at the ACE chemical plant and prepared them ourselves. Joker may have a high talent for chemistry, or this may be his profession. I have a way to catch him, and he will come to us on his own. Niji smiled confidently. He thought for a whole night and found several fatal weaknesses of Joker. Of course, the first weakness was Batman. For Joker, Batman was his other side. It was Joker's lifelong wish to turn this brave and fearless bat into one of his own kind, and he destroyed him with his own hands. But now, their relationship is obviously not that good. And the other is Joker's narcissism. He will never allow piracy unless authorized by him. Otherwise, Joker will come to deliver warmth and go directly to heaven in one step. Niji just wants to take advantage of this and let Joker fall into the trap. Think about it. When the police catch a pirated Joker, that Joker will kneel down and beg for mercy, which is full of ugliness. How long can the real Joker endure? But this move is playing with fire. If it goes wrong, it will be even more tragic than the previous warehouse explosion. Therefore, we must be cautious, and cautious. Niji and Gordon discussed the capture plan. Although it was a bit risky, it was worth a try, and the location was set in the Arkham district. At critical moments, Arkham can be completely sealed off. As long as the steel bridge is raised, Arkham will be an isolated island. Niji thought about the core location for a long time and settled on Arkham Asylum, where he would arrest and imprison him directly. If possible, Niji would not keep Joker as a hidden danger. Being obsessed with such a lunatic would definitely be a tragedy, just like Gordon. Niji glanced at Gordon quietly and thought for a moment. If Barbara has time, I can introduce her to a martial arts school. Huh? What did you say? Gordon asked in confusion. This is Gotham. You'd better give your daughter some ability to protect herself. If not, you can apply for an extra gun for her. Niji advised seriously. She has a black belt in karate. I asked her to go back as soon as possible, but she wanted to go to Gotham University, but I rejected her. Your choice is correct, but you have to find a TV station. I will find a few helpers to spread news. On the Upper East Side, Oswald looked at the seedlings in front of him and scratched his hair helplessly. Niji, I still don't want you to get involved in this matter. You guys have lost miserably in the news. That's why we need to get back together. What about your Falcone boss? He was so ridiculous, but it turns out that Bicadina was rescued by Batman. Niji, who was sitting on the sofa on one side, said without fear, holding a bottle of Coke in his hand and looking at the facilities in the room. Oswald has indeed become prosperous. Compared with the dilapidated appearance when he first came here, it is now like a royal palace. Although it is doubtful how many of the expensive furniture, antiques, and ornaments are genuine, they at least look magnificent. You'd better call me Mr. Falcone. Oswald shook his head. He is now Falcone's close follower. Having already entered outside the inner circle, Falcone is different from other gang bosses. Before employing people, he always likes to take them with him to inspect them for a period of time. If it passes, it will be a cadre of the Falcone family. If it fails, I am afraid that not even the body will be left. Help me spread the news. No problem. Oswald looked at the message on the table and rubbed his hands. Is this possible? Don't think too much. If you confront him, he will probably kill you. This guy is very scary, Niji advised, because he could see that this little penguin's ambition had grown and he was gradually heading towards Gotham's gang boss. There is indeed a part of him who is a traditional Gotham gangster, but when it comes to Joker, Niji is really worried that he will be killed. I'll have someone send the news out and make sure the whole Gotham knows that Joker is hiding in Arkham's sewage treatment plant. Oswald said that for this kind of thing, all he had to do was say hello, and he was also very prestigious in the Upper East Side. Well, by the way, why is Bar Zero on the Upper East Side still closed? Isn't there anyone opening a shop? Niji asked curiously. That store was in a good location and had been profitable before, so it shouldn't close. It's not you yet. Oswald laughed. That fool Maroni was so repaired by Batman that he didn't dare to show up. He is still lying in the hospital recovering. The ground beneath him collapsed, so he closed the business because there was no other way. Niji rubbed his lips. Can you take down Bar Zero? I need a store and some staff. Aren't you a policeman? Oswald asked. Is it necessary to open a store to resettle people? There are also things that are difficult for the police to handle. Money is easy to talk about. Just let me handle the matter, Niji said, leaning on the sofa. He has no intention of staying in Arkham District forever. He has to cultivate his own powerful gang and do other things. How can a great man live in a state of depression for a long time? Chapter 94, Uncle Jack. The cold light in the research room shone on the light blue floor. And an urban beauty wearing high heels and professional clothes walked in as coldly as frost. I need an explanation. Who gave you the right to leave him without permission? Strange. Miss Talia, after strange, you should add the word doctor. That way it will sound better. Hugo Strange was standing in front of the culture tank in a white coat, holding a notepad and checking some values. You still have not answered my question. Talia walked over, biting her red lips with her white teeth, looking at the corpse in the culture tank, and asked with an unwilling look, how did he die? In the cylindrical culture tank, a mutilated corpse was soaked in the light green liquid, with several thin metal tubes interspersed on the corpse. Strange raised his head, looked at the data on the computer, and recorded it again on the notepad in his hand. He died of pain, his heart ruptured, and he also took strong poison and struggled for more than an hour. Strange said, I didn't expect that a little policeman could actually. What do you want to say? Talia's eyes were cold. Strange closed the notepad and turned to look at Talia. Miss Talia, I admit that the Assassin's League is powerful, but I recognize more what I see with my own eyes. Talia stared at him without fear, but Strange finally took a step back and ended the confrontation. Okay, I admit I underestimated the policeman, but Strange looked at the culture tank. A strange look lit up in his eyes. I really underestimated him. This corpse with a distorted face, internal organs, and even burst blood vessels gave Strange too much confusion and shock. What kind of vitality can he resist tenaciously for 72 minutes under the powerful poison that kills in 3 seconds, and stop the bleeding on his own in the case of heavy bleeding, and even have a tendency to heal? Give me the information on that person. Talia reached out to get it. The Assassin's League's plan has been launched, and no unexpected things are allowed. If there is, get rid of it. Niji, senior detective of the Arkham Police Department. I have prepared a copy for you. Also, I would like to ask, is the Solaru pool real? Strange turned around and asked, walking to the other side, picking up the information bag and pouring out the photos and documents inside. Talia hesitated after hearing this. It's true, but it's only effective in the Salala Pond. The immortal spring will lose its effect if it leaves the Salala Pond. Talia turned to look at Strange. After the Gotham Collapse plan is completed, you will be eligible to enter the Solaru pool and become the heir to the Assassin's League. Strange nodded and watched Talia leave. Then, he turned to look at the corpse in the culture tank and said thoughtfully, there is more than just the Sala pool in this world. Catch him, don't let him escape. A gang member carrying a pistol fired 3 shots at the fleeing figure in front of him. Bang, bang, bang. The panicked figure hid in an alley, and a group of gang members chased the fireball. Jote, did you read that correctly? A gang member with a submachine gun rushed into the alley and saw only a long dead end. He shouted in surprise, where are the people? I read that right, it's the Joker. The Romans offered him a reward of 10 million. 10 million? Chiatti blushed, completely aroused by the sky-high price of the reward, which was even more exciting than when he got high with a woman. 10 million, this is a number that the middle and low-level gang members, would never dare to think of. Where is that damn green-haired guy with the money exchange coupon that ran away from the circus? Where is it? Several people hurriedly ran into the alley, searching for traces of Joker. Although they had no talent for tracking, they were tempted by the huge reward. It was the trash can. They all turned over it twice, just as Choate, who was holding a pistol, opened the trash lid on one side. Joker, who was hiding in the trash can, stood up first. George looked at Joker's pale complexion, funny red lips, and dark green hair, and his face suddenly became overjoyed. At this moment, a pocket knife stabbed into his neck. It was a 3-cent inferior pocket knife. It was a bit unusable even for robberies, but now it took his life. The warm blood, like running water, spread along his neck, making the suit on his body soaked through. He wanted to shout a reminder, but Joker's hand covered his mouth, making him unable to make a sound and could only stare wide-eyed. All the strength in his body flowed out along with the blood. When the gun in his hand fell, Joker reached out to catch it. Good baby, you should go to bed early. Joker said with a smile, pulled out the knife, and splashed a stream of warm blood on Joker's face. Licking the blood droplets on his lips, Joker shouted excitedly, let Uncle Jack see who's not sleeping yet. This sound alarmed several people around him, but Joker held the pistol and pulled the trigger, shouting crazily, the obedient baby has already laid down to sleep. The bad baby who hasn't slept yet should be punished. Bang, 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 bang. Every time the muzzle of Joker's gun shook, a blood flower bloomed from one of the gang members, and the gunfire echoed around him. Click! The bullet was empty. Joker brought the barrel of the gun to his eyes, looked at the dark rifling inside, shook it twice, and shrugged helplessly. It seems that American products are not easy to use either. More than half of the gang members in the alley were killed or wounded by the gunshots just now. The only remaining person was hiding behind the trash can and did not dare to show his face. Joker jumped out of the trash can, bent down to pick up the lid on the ground, put it back on, and nodded with satisfaction. Picking up a submachine gun on the ground and loading it, Joker looked up at the sky and said to himself, "What should I do with the bad baby? Should pull out teeth. I hate pulling out teeth." But Joker turned to look at the gang member hiding behind the trash can, grinned and shouted, "Bad babies like to pull out teeth." The gang members who were hiding behind the trash can were anxious and angry when they heard this rumor. Finally, they gritted their teeth and stood up, raised their guns, and pulled the triggers. The Joker from Gory Beachy. D. The bullets fired from the submachine gun in his hand were like a metal storm, sweeping away everything in the alley. Broken wine bottles, wooden boards, bricks, scraps of paper flying everywhere, and BG tin trash cans. Click! All the bullets were fired. The gang members gasped for air and glanced in front of them in horror. There was no Joker. Oh, poor bad baby, leave it to Uncle Jack. Uncle Jack will make you a good baby. Joker, holding a submachine gun, appeared from the side and pressed the barrel of the gun against the gang member's cheek. In the man's frightened eyes begging for mercy, Joker shook his head pitifully. "Don't worry, Uncle Jack will help you." The trigger was pulled, the submachine gun fired bullets, and there was a sound of the water bag being smashed. The gang member's face, teeth, tongue, and skin were all shattered by bullets, turning into thick red plasma and splashing on the wall like a thick layer of red paint. With a plop, the body fell to the ground. Joker took a submachine gun, rubbed it on his face, and said pitifully, "Look, the good baby is sleeping so well." Ah! A panicked voice sounded from a broken door in the alley. It was a businessman in a torn suit. He heard the gunfire and came over to take a look. However, this sight scared him just when he covered his mouth, prayed for God's blessing in his heart, and left quietly, suddenly. The bullets fired from the submachine gun directly penetrated the dilapidated wooden door, leaving circular bullet holes in it. However, in just 2 seconds, the submachine gun in Joker's hand was empty of bullets, and he reached out and pushed open the door. Chapter 95 TV Temptation Bang. The broken wooden door fell to the ground, throwing up a burst of dust and sawdust. The businessman who collapsed on the ground tried to get up tremblingly, but his legs were as weak as a pile of mud, and his wet crotch almost made him cry. However, Joker was not an unreasonable person. He unscrewed the non-existent door and walked in. Then, as if performing a mime, he slammed the door and closed it. Joker raised his head and took a deep breath, lowered his head and smiled. "What a wonderful air." As he said that, he took another breath through his nose. But this time, he breathed in some sawdust, which made him cough. "It's really bad. It smells worse than ashes. By the way, let's shake hands." Joker smiled and extended his hand to the collapsed businessman on the ground. The businessman was trembling so much that he couldn't even lift his hands, and his face was as pale and weak as his dead father, which made Joker very boring. He didn't like this serious expression and should smile more. So he took out 2 pairs of pliers from his pants pocket. The pliers were stained with rust, and he had forgotten where he got them from, but it didn't matter. "Hey man, have a laugh. Why are you so serious?" Joker held the pliers and clamped the corners of the businessman's mouth. Amidst the businessman's screams and the sound of his skin and flesh tearing, he smiled widely. The businessman covered his face and lay on the ground screaming, blood flowing out from his fingers. Joker shook his head helplessly and threw the pliers on the ground. Some people are always unable to accept their true selves. Joker hummed an inexplicable tune and walked inside. It looked like a toy warehouse, but it was covered with dust. "Oh, look what this is, it's Mr. Jack." Joker was so surprised that he picked up a Joker mask, put on his face, and said, as if looking in the mirror, "Uncle Jack, do you want to give candy to those children?" Joker immediately turned to the other side and nodded affirmatively. "Give out candy, of course. All good babies have candy." Ha ha ha. After laughing twice, Joker seemed to have had enough. He took off his mask and threw on the ground. He continued to look through the toys in those cardboard boxes like a treasure hunt. After struggling for a while, Joker rode a pink rocking horse and jumped into another room. The house was a living place, but it was in a mess. Broken shoes and a plate with slices of bread were all placed on the table. There's a TV playing Snowflakes next to it, and the noise of snowflakes on the radio waves echoes in the room. Joker carefully picked up a grilled sausage on the plate, cut into thin slices with a toy plastic fork and knife, put it in his mouth, and tasted it with relish. Not paying attention to the smelly old shoes next to him, he picked up the trampled remote control on the ground, and Joker changed a few channels. However, the TV signal was not good, and he couldn't watch many channels. Just when Joker was changing the channel, a laughing voice rang out, which made him stunned for a moment. A Joker wearing a green wig and overalls, dressed like a McDonald's Joker, was laughing and joking around on the TV screen. Then a message popped up. The criminal Joker, who caused panic among the citizens, has been rounded up. Live reports from Arkham District. Chief Gordon, have you caught Joker? Gordon on the TV glanced back, pointed at the sewage treatment plant, and said, "We have surrounded Joker, but he has hostages in his hands, and we are in the process of rescuing him." While they were interviewing, a shout came from the sewage treatment plant. "Joker!" The camera immediately turned around and kept zooming in. The Joker who was laughing and joking just now was dancing upstairs with his bare buttocks, raising his hands and swaying in a duck dance. There was a kid with explosives strapped to his body, sitting next to him. "Take 10 million, no, 20 million. Come on. If you don't give me the money, I will blow up this place and kill all of you. I am Joker, your nightmare." Joker. Yeah. The real Joker sat in front of the TV, laughing so hard that tears came to his eyes. I reached into my pocket and took out a handkerchief to wipe my tears. Bang. The TV was blown up by a shot. Joker was holding a revolver in his hand, with a sinister smile on his face and gritted teeth. Joker, Joker, Joker. He is not angry. Not at all. He just thinks this Joker is too fake, especially the smile on his face. Nothing like Joker at all. You should smile more happily. Joker pulled the corners of his mouth with his fingers, pulled out a smile, and stared at the TV set that was emitting electric sparks with cold eyes. He grabbed the sausages and bread on the table, stuffed them into his mouth, chewed them, turned around and walked out. He needed something. Let them know what a Joker is. Uncle Jack, who puts good babies to sleep, is the Joker. At the sewage treatment plant in Arkham District, Gordon held a cigarette in his hand and looked at the sewage treatment plant building with a sad expression. It was getting late. If it were night, there would be too many surprises, Gordon thought to himself. And this plan is a bit too crazy, just in case the madman gets angry. Thinking of this, Gordon took another long puff of cigarette, and a pile of cigarette butts were already thrown under his feet. "Saplings, are you sure?" Gordon turned around and asked. Meow Moo, who was holding a large kettle and pouring instant coffee into it, heard this, and without even raising his head, he picked up the hot water kettle and poured water into it. "I'm not sure, but don't worry. As long as Joker sees this scene, he will definitely come. This guy does not allow fakes to remain in the world unless authorized by him." It's not unreasonable for Niji to say this. The most famous gang in Gotham is the Joker Gang, but no one dares to pretend to be Joker. It's not that there are none, but they are all dead. What a miserable death. There was a circus that was desperate and used the Joker as a gimmick. As a result, the real Joker heard the sound and rushed over and poured laughing gas into them one by one, making them laugh to death, including the audience. "Bah, this coffee is bitter than my life." Niji spit out a sip of coffee, stuck out his tongue, wrinkled his face, turned around and shouted, "Bring me 2 bottles of milk and a bag of sugar. Don't wait any longer. Come here at night. Let the brothers drink some coffee and eat some cake and prepare to stay up late." Niji leaned on the chair and said, "This chair is the kind of folding recliner from the Gotham TV broadcast truck. As for the TV station staff, they have been evacuated. Only 2 guys with longer insurance than their lives are here carrying cameras and interviewing Joker at close range. No, I think Milo is too much." Gordon came over, sat on a chair, picked up a cup of coffee, and took a sip. Niji turned around and looked over. The Joker on the roof was jumping up and down, almost doing a striptease horseback riding dance. He was not wearing a mask, but he was clearly releasing himself. "I'm still worried." Gordon shook his head. Niji didn't try to persuade him anymore, including the Major Crime Team, Quick Response Team C, Temporary Team A, Arkham Police, Gotham Police Special Operations Team, and support teams transferred from other police stations. There were more than 200 people in total, as well as the rats summoned by Otis. Niji really wasn't worried about Joker. Moreover, once night falls, a certain big bat will be active, and you will definitely not miss this good show. Niji gave the order to kill Joker directly here. Everyone was armed with live ammunition, and there was no limit to shooting. Joker is made of iron plate, and he also received 2 bullets. Chapter 96. Playing with Joker, it got dark earlier than expected. After drinking a lot of coffee, Meow Moo stood on the water tower of the sewage treatment plant and looked at the surrounding situation with a telescope. The darkness of the night provided too much cover. Gordon had replaced Mike and squatted in the processing workshop pretending to be Joker. Jason, who acted as a hostage, was kicked by Niji, put into the car, and left with Nigma, who provided technical support in the distance. The entire sewage treatment plant has now become a huge amount of bear trap, quietly waiting for the arrival of Joker. On the roof of a building in the distance, Gotham's Dark Knight, Batman, was already in place. What was more interesting was that he was wearing black rubber insulating gloves on his hands. Every time you learn something, you learn something. This is Batman. His equipment was completely pulled out of Gotham's arms race. Batman, can you hear me? Alfred's voice sounded from the radio overhead. Batman glanced around and said in a voice changed by a voice changer, "What's wrong?" Usually when Alfred contacted him, it was usually because something had happened or there was a dangerous situation somewhere. In the Batcave, Alfred, looking at the computer, hesitated a little and said, "Joker is here, driving a burning oil tanker." Batman was stunned for a moment, then turned to look at the steel bridge in the distance. A trailer-type oil tanker, slamming the accelerator, rampaged on the road unscrupulously, and even ran over those cars directly. There were several tires tied to the top of the oil tank behind the car, and it was burning with flames and black smoke rising into the sky. The Joker logo was spray-painted on the side of the oil tank, a laughing green-haired Joker. The seedlings on the water tower also received the notification from Nigma. He really didn't expect Joker, ABD, to dare to play the trick of destroying both the stone and the stone. "Sniper!" Niji shouted at the pager. "Find a way to stop that oil tanker. We must not let it explode." The surviving Group C of the Quick Reaction Force turned around with 2 sniper rifles, and the snipers showed pain expressions. How to stop this thing? It's easier said than done. The tractor trailer is the same model as Optimus Prime, and the exhaust pipe is emitting black smoke. It can be seen that the accelerator is pressed to the bottom. It's like a train moving at full speed. Does this thing stop? "What the hell, Jerry? Try stop the car." Meow Moo shouted loudly as he ran down from the water tower. "How can we stop this?" Jerry roared directly. The burning oil tanker had already crossed the steel bridge. If it continued at this speed, it would crash into the sewage treatment plant in 3 minutes at most. "Edward, think of a way." Niji roared directly into the earphones. The external brain was used at this time. At home, Nigma was sweating profusely as he pressed the keyboard on his computer and smoked. Various impact model formulas kept popping up on the screen. "There is a way. Use the police car to go over and slow down. Drive the police car. Blow out the tires of the oil tanker. Use the police car as an obstacle. Intercept. You need 4 police cars. Note that you can only hit the front of the car, and part of the rear of the car must not be placed sideways. Then contact the fire station quickly." Meowji shouted, jumped down from the water tower stairs, and began to arrange manpower. The oil tanker that rushed down from the steel bridge rushed over here. 2 police cars, one on the left and one on the right, stopped on the side of the road, just wide enough to block part of the car. There was a muffled sound of pop-pop, the tanker swayed, and the tires were blown out by the sniper. The speed was reduced a lot, but the impact force was not reduced. With a bang, the 2 police cars in front were directly hit by the tanker truck, but the speed was reduced a bit. As soon as the 2 police cars in front stopped, the police officers in the cars jumped out of them, and the people around them didn't dare to get close. Meow Moo came down from the water tower and looked around. Only the TV station's broadcast truck had lights on, and a reporter carrying a camera hurried past with a chair. I'm really busy capturing news right now. On the other side of the intersection, Jerry and the others, carrying pistols and fire extinguishers, watched as the tanker hit the last two police cars, slowed down again, and staggered to a stop. Up, 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 up! Jerry shouted quickly. The police on both sides quickly took fire extinguishers and sprayed dry powder and foam on the roof of the oil tanker. Jerry and other policemen rushed over in one go. The policeman with a shotgun shot the car door lock, and the car door suddenly opened. They were like tigers pounced on their prey, pinning Joker in the car and shouting loudly. Catch him. Grab his arm first. Handcuffs. Get him down. Quick. With roars and roars, these people forcefully pulled Joker out of the car. Click, click, click. 3 handcuffs were added. Jerry took off the mask from Joker's face and was stunned for a moment when he came over to take a look. Not only him, but the other police officers were also stunned. Under the Joker mask, there's a man with tape on his mouth, shaking his head and trying to say something. With a tug, the tape on his mouth was torn off, and a layer of skin on his lips was peeled off, leaving a bloody mess. Bomb! There's a bomb on me, the man shouted in panic. Just this sentence scared Jerry and the others into a cold sweat. They turned around and ran away. Even the policeman holding a fire extinguisher next to them fled in a hurry. The fire extinguisher was thrown on the ground for fear of running slower. As for that man, who cares? He's going to die. Help me. Help me, don't run. The man lying on the ground, handcuffed, screamed in horror, tears streaming down his face, and howled in agony. Hula, a black shadow, fell from the sky, and when it landed, a pair of big black wings folded up. It's like angel falling from the sky, just a little dark. The man looked at the angel in front of him with half horror and half surprise, praying secretly in his heart that he could survive. Batman pulled him up and lifted up the bulging clothes on his body. It was like there was a box stuffed inside the overalls jacket. Sure enough, as soon as he opened the clothes, it was a bomb package full of wires, flashing red and blue lights, and 2 unstable liquid explosives on the side. In the middle is a gift box-style explosive bag, which seems to have a flip-top lid. The wires are running through it. It looks extremely complicated. Batman glanced at the man, took out 2 batarangs from his belt, crossed them together like scissors, and tentatively touched the box. Master, I suggest you open a box and take a look. The total number of lines should be inside. Look at the flashing of the lights. It doesn't look like it's timed. Alfred, who was far away in the Batcave, used his former military knowledge to give Batman on-the-spot guidance. Batman's eyes were firm, and he used bat darts to slowly pry open the gift box-style lid. As soon as he opened it, several levels inside were touched, and the lid of the box popped up. A green spring glove was punched out. The spring used was a mechanical spring, which was extremely fast. There was also a spiked finger tiger on the glove, which was extremely fierce. Batman's abnormal reflexes only had time to raise his hand to block, and the punch hit him on the arm. It felt like being hit by someone swinging a hammer. Beep, 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 beep. The explosives suddenly went off. The man with explosives tied to his body was so frightened that he peed his pants. Batman reached out to pull the explosives, and it exploded instantly. Batman instinctively raised his hand to cover it. But there was no explosion as he imagined, but an unbearable stench, which made Batman frown. The smell was a bit familiar. Dang, dang, dang. Big surprise. The Joker's voice sounded from the box on the man's chest. Batman looked gloomily and took out the so-called bomb, the prank leather pad, the super version from the box. There's also a talking Joker doll, which plays Joker's wild and triumphant laughter, as if laughing at the stupidity of these people. No matter how good-tempered Batman was, this roller coaster-like ups and downs made him a little angry and threw the Joker doll to the ground. The Joker doll fell to the ground and exploded. With a bang, the impact of the explosion directly blew Batman away. The man with explosives tied to his body was also blown away. Compared to Batman, who was protected by equipment, he was much worse, but he was still alive and could still scream at the top of his lungs. Batman got up from the ground, breathing heavily. It felt like gnashing his teeth. He jumped up, rushed up to the wall on one side, and disappeared into the darkness. Jerry, who witnessed all this, conveyed everything to Niji through the pager. Meow Moo, who was originally heading this way, was frightened when he heard that the driver was not Joker. Meow Moo, who knew a little about the art of war, immediately turned around and ran back. That reporter just now. That reporter. Gordon. Niji was running so fast that he almost left an afterimage. The situation just now had mobilized most of the police force. Damn it. Niji cursed inwardly, stepped hard on his feet, and ran towards the sewage treatment workshop. Chapter 97 Joker's live broadcast. The door of the sewage treatment workshop was pushed open by Meow Moo. As soon as he stepped in, Meow Moo let out a scream. Then, with a thud, he fell backwards, causing Niji's eyes to almost pop out of his head in pain. That BD threw marbles. Niji covered his back and stood up with a ferocious expression. The ground was covered with glass marbles, and there was no place to put his feet. He kicked twice to find a place where he could stand. Niji stared, raised his hand angrily, and grasped the six-pointed star around his neck and activated the Eye of Reality effect. Gordon, where are you? Niji took out his pistol, put his feet on the ground, kicked away the glass marbles, and walked inside. The workshop is not small, and there are some large machines and pipes in the middle. Here, they arranged a group of 7 people to commit serious crimes. But Niji didn't see a single figure. Gordon. Niji's voice echoed in the workshop, and the people covered by the canvas screamed when they heard it. There was a bulge under the canvas, and Niji kicked off the glass marbles on the ground and ran over, but he still scanned the surroundings warily. He checked the canvas again, took out a folding fruit knife from his pocket, and made a slit on it. He didn't want to bet on Joker's bad taste. When the canvas was opened, it was revealed that they were all members of the crime team. They were not dead, but they were not much better. The one who was tied up in the middle, whining and screaming, was the female Detective Raina Montoya of the Major Crime Unit. Joker even thoughtfully drew a cross on her head with a red pen. Niji didn't pull the tape on Raina's mouth, but looked at the explosives tied to her body with an awkward look. The colorful lights were flashing like inferior toys, and there was a green gift box. Niji cursed, took out the knife, and opened the lid of the box. There was no spring-loaded glove popping out of it. Instead, it was a more complex and exquisite explosive package, with several wires wrapped in black tape and wrapped in the middle. This looks like explosives, but how do you defuse it? Love, Edward, can you defuse explosives? Niji asked quickly. The first time he saw the explosives, he wanted to run. That seemed too irresponsible. However, Joker's explosives are notoriously heartless. Let me see. Take out your phone. Nigma shouted loudly, and Niji quickly took out his phone. Nigma lay on the computer screen, looking at the bomb through the camera of his mobile phone, and hesitated for a few seconds. Take out the explosive bag inside. Niji also hesitated for a moment, but still believed in the Riddler's judgment. He carefully reached out and took out the explosive wrapped in tape. The corner of Nigma's mouth in front of the screen twitched. It's potatoes, damn it. What? Meow Moo was stunned when he heard this. He picked up the explosive and took a closer look. It was not a potato. The sprouts were sprouting out. FK, I'm scared to death. Niji pulled off the tape. It was nothing but explosives. It was just a wire and tape tied to the potato. This is a scam. Get out. Meow Moo threw the potatoes on the ground, cut the rope with a knife, and asked sternly, "Where is Gordon?" Raina stretched out her hand and pulled off the tape on her face and quickly shouted, "Gordon was taken away. It's that reporter. I knew it." Niji turned around and ran out. With a bang, the iron door that had been pushed open when arriving was closed, and the sewage treatment machines were started. Sewage gurgled out. What a joke! There was a loud bang, and a dent was left on the outside of the iron door. Meow Moo took 2 steps back, jumped up again, and kicked it up. The iron door shook twice, and the ground was covered with sewage. Raina took a knife to cut the ropes for others. Niji, don't worry, Otis is here. Nigma shouted loudly, and took the communicator to mobilize the others. I'm not in a hurry, Niji said lightly, but when he looked up at the wires on the wall next to him, there were sparks. I'm not in AFG hurry. The sewage was up to his ankles, and Meow Moo kicked and smashed the iron door, making a loud BG noise. With a bang, the iron door was smashed open, and the power went out in the workshop. Nigma asked Otis to turn off the main gate. Not only was there a power outage here, but the surrounding area was also completely black, and it was pitch black, but there were some places with lights on. There are still lights on the roof next to the sewage plant. Group C? Can you hear me? Niji looked at the roof of the building, took out the pager, and asked. Joker is up there. Let me find a way to turn off his live broadcast first. Nigma's voice sounded for the earphones. Niji hurriedly ran towards the building. In the dark place around him, the sound of mice running and squeaking could be heard all the time. Otis, wearing a waterproof leather jacket and a gas mask on his face, ran over carrying a hunting fork. Joker is on the roof. Don't take the stairs. Otis shouted to Niji, then raised his hand and whistled. An explosion instantly caused an explosion on the stairs on the second floor, and the glass on the window was shattered. On the rooftop, Joker's terrifying laughter was heard. Hee, I'm sorry, I'm so happy. Joker was wearing a large suit, and his smile was swaying from side to side, making him laugh wildly. This gray striped suit looked nondescript on him, like a sack on his body, empty and too big. Joker covered his face with his hands, looked at the camera that was filming, and shouted excitedly, "Hello, Gotham. Ha ha ha. By the way, who is this Joker?" Joker smiled and pulled Sheriff Gordon, who was bundled like rice dumplings next to him, over. The green wig on Gordon's head was nailed to the forehead by Joker with a stapler. His face looked as if it had been wiped with putty. It was as white as a sculpture. Fortunately, the glasses had not been taken off yet. Tisk, TSK, TSK. Let's see who this ridiculous Joker is. Joker shook his head and took out the police badge from his pocket, stuck out his tongue, dipped a little saliva on his finger, and opened the badge. Look, this is Sheriff Gordon, James Gordon. Joker stared, smiled, turned his head, shook his head, and clicked his tongue a few times, as if he was looking at a hopeless guy. Same. Why don't you smile? Joker blinked and looked at Gordon, whose mouth was taped, a little confused. Why didn't he smile? On the other side of the camera, in the Gotham TV headquarters, all the staff were standing here, watching the live broadcast. Director, what should we do now? A staff member looked at the TV director, who was wearing a suit and holding out his belly. The task they received was to live broadcast the Joker's footage and attract the real Joker to pass, but it really passed. The station director took a puff of his cigar, looking like a nouveau riche in the countryside, and frowned. How are the ratings? It's already 13%. At this time, we have reached the top 3. The staff on the other side said. Then let's continue broadcasting and let Big Mouth Toge prepare the script. We want to win the first place in the ratings tonight. If this police chief died a little more tragically, maybe our ratings could be even higher. The station director said unabashedly, after all, for them, ratings, audiences, and data are the last word. As for the life and death of the police, it's none of their business. Gordon, who still didn't know that he had been sacrificed, was struggling fiercely. Unfortunately, the handcuffs on his wrists were not ropes that could be cut with glass. His struggle also made Joker react. Joker tapped his forehead with his finger, thought for a while, took out a pistol from his pocket, and pointed it at Gordon. At this time, Gordon didn't dare to move anymore, and Joker also had a happy smile on his face. Dear Chief Gordon, do you have anything to say? Joker turned his head sideways, put his hands to his ears, and moved his head bit by bit, as if he really heard something. Gordon scolded the 18th generation of Joker's ancestors in his mind, and he had the guts to tear the tape off my mouth. That's it. You're a bad baby, yo. Don't worry. Uncle Jack will help you. Joker pointed the gun upwards with a smile, and the building under his feet exploded with a bang. Joker was so frightened that he swayed left and right. He quickly took out an oxygen mask from his pocket and put it on, and took a few deep breaths. It scared me to death. I thought it was... Before he finished speaking, Joker saw a group of rats rushing up to the stairs. Wow, that's a lot of roasted geese. Joker smiled excitedly, took out a submachine gun from his clothes, pointed it there and pulled the trigger. Chapter 98: Death of Joker. Click, click, click. Submachine gun bullets fired across the roof. Dozens of rats were cut off, and blood splattered everywhere. The seedlings climbed up from downstairs, dragging a Group C sniper who was hanging upside down downstairs, and climbed to the top of the building. Joker just finished using up his bullets, took out a liquid test tube from his arms, and threw it toward the stairs. There was a loud bang, and the mouse at the entrance of the stairs was blown into a pile of mud. Under the cover of the explosion, Niji kicked away the camera in use. The camera spun around in the air, dragged the wire downstairs, and fell upstairs. "Joker, you're under arrest." Niji roared angrily, stood up, and kicked him. The unprepared Joker was kicked by the kick and flew sideways, falling to the ground in a miserable state. Niji looked at Joker screaming on the ground and suddenly felt that this is not difficult. Taking out the M500 revolver from the holster, Niji walked towards Joker. He had no intention of capturing this scourge alive. Gordon, who fell to the ground, looked at Niji's murderous look and screamed twice, telling him not to do anything stupid. "Joker, by..." Niji walked over, looked at Joker rolling on the ground and screaming, sneered, and pulled the trigger with his finger. The moment the gun rang out, Joker reached out and grabbed Niji's wet trouser legs, and in an instant, high-voltage electricity rushed through. "Ah!" Niji screamed, his whole body twitching. His fingers seemed to be locked. He squeezed the trigger. Bang, 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 bang. The bullet hit the concrete floor, causing rubble to scatter. A stray bullet scratched Joker's cheek and took away a piece of bloody flesh. Niji was so shocked that he took several steps back and sat down on the ground. His hair stood up as if it had exploded, and white steam was rising from his wet trouser legs. "Yeah." Joker looked at the burn electric shock device in his hand. It had been used too many times and had been burned. Looking up at Niji again, Joker stuck out his tongue and licked the blood on his face, took out a knife from his pocket, and walked over to Niji. "Did you buy a ticket?" Joker asked with wide eyes. Niji's whole body twitched due to the electric shock. He stared at Joker, gritted his teeth, raised his hand, and slapped Joker on the face. Because he didn't use any strength, Joker didn't feel any pain. Joker stuck out his tongue and licked his lips again, rolled his eyelids, and organized the words in his mind. "You're dead." Joker nodded. Niji heard Joker's cold joke, looked at the knife that was stabbing him, and turned his head to the side with all his strength. The feeling of weakness and paralysis after being electrocuted cannot be relieved for a while. "I'm going to die here. How could it be possible?" Niji roared in his heart, turned his head desperately, and a double-edged hunting fork stabbed him from behind. The hunting fork was ground out with 2 long nails. It was very rough, but also very sharp. Joker's right hand was pierced at once. Joker looked at the pierced right hand, took out a doll from his pocket, and pinched Niji, causing a stream of water to spit out from the doll's mouth. Niji also turned his head desperately and lay on the ground all of a sudden. The stream of water flew over him and fell to the ground, foaming, and there was an unpleasant chemical smell. It's strong acid. On the same day, Niji, who almost turned into a double-faced man, had a layer of cold sweat on his forehead. This Joker was a bit too vicious. Otis, wearing a waterproof leather jacket, came up from behind, grabbed the hunting fork with both hands, and stabbed Joker again. Joker took the doll and sprayed strong acid at Otis. Otis had no time to dodge and did not dodge. The acid fell on the gas mask on his face, melting the protective layer, but Otis stabbed him again. Joker screamed when he was stabbed and jumped up. Otis took advantage of the victory and stabbed forward again. Joker took out a knife and threw it away, and took the opportunity to avoid Otis's hunting fork. An axe whipped out of his sleeve. Joker held it in his hand, showed a ferocious smile, and struck forward. Seeing this scene, Niji, who had just regained consciousness on the ground, quickly raised his leg and tripped over, causing Joker to miss him. Otherwise, if the axe fell on his head, Otis would have had his head opened for free tonight. He was originally not good at close combat. "Otis, go back." Niji got up and punched Joker. Although he didn't regain his sharpness, there was no feeling in his fist, and he punched Joker 3 times in a row. Joker screamed and backed away, vomiting a mouthful of blood. He pulled at the corners of his mouth and smiled more ferociously. He reached out and pulled his pocket, and a bunch of glass marbles rolled out from his trouser legs. The seedlings that had not been stepped on fell to the ground again, but they saw a revolver on the ground and quickly picked it up. Niji pulled the trigger on Joker. With a bang, a colorful note exploded from the muzzle of the gun, and a small flag stretched out from the muzzle, which read, "Failure." I've been shot. Joker covered his chest and staggered, like an actor with poor acting skills. FKU. Niji was so angry that he rushed over and punched Joker twice in the face, grabbed him by the collar, and threw him to the ground. Joker's thin body, in the hands of Niji, is like a skinny turkey in the mouth of a lion, an existence that will be torn apart. With a bang, the fork in Joker's hand stabbed Niji in the stomach, but the thick body armor blocked the blow. "Oh, you cheated." Joker laughed heartily and shrugged helplessly. "What the hell?" Niji raised his arm and punched Joker in the face, causing a bloody flower to explode. This BD is really aggressive. Niji cursed in his mind, raised his fist, and hit Joker 3 or 4 times in the face before stopping. Joker's face was covered in blood, and his skin was torn apart from a beating. The corners of his mouth were still twitching and raised, and his eyes were staring at Niji excitedly. Niji, who was angered by those eyes, grabbed Joker's neck with both hands, slammed it to the ground, and threw him out. Joker rolled on the ground a few times and reached the edge of the roof. During the last lap, Joker reached out to grab the edge of the roof, but did not grab it, because he saw another figure on the roof, dressed in black. So familiar. An idea suddenly popped into Joker's mind. If he fell, would anyone save him? As soon as this idea appeared, it filled Joker's crazy mind, and he allowed himself to roll down from the rooftop. When he fell from the building, he saw everyone's expressions. There was a relieved smile on Meow Moo's face, and a look of annoyance on Gordon's face for not catching him with his own hands. Only that fake guy. He actually hesitated. He hesitated. Ha! Joker laughed wildly and fell from the roof. The feeling of weightlessness did not last long. Joker fell to the ground like a sack filled with straw. There was no sound when he fell to the ground, and only blood spread out from under him, like a flowing and winding stream. The excited smile on his face was also fixed at this moment. The camera hanging in the middle of the building recorded his last smile and spread it throughout Gotham City. Meow Moo stepped on the edge of the rooftop and glanced down. This was the 7th floor. If he fell, he would not survive. These days, Niji smacked his lips. Gotham's crime prince died so neatly, it feels a bit unreal. With a hula, a figure left from the side. Meow Moo turned around and saw only Zhang Yi disappearing into the darkness. But this is also a good thing. Niji turned around and walked towards Gordon. In a small hospital in downtown Gotham, a patient with his face wrapped in gauze sat on the bed, looking at the ferocious smile on the TV, and his whole body trembled with fear. He covered his face with his hands, as if he thought of something terrible, and screamed uncontrollably. No, no! His screams also attracted the doctor. The doctor stood at the door, watching him lose control, and told the nurse next to him, "Give him an injection of morphine to stabilize him. By the way, what is his name?" The nurse looked through the case sheet. Maze Curtis, his face was disfigured. He was probably frightened while watching TV. Turn off the TV to give him less stimulation. The doctor put his hands in the pockets of his white coat. "I don't want my patient to be sent to Arkham Asylum, so I won't get any medical expenses." Chapter 99, An Ordinary Day. I don't want to go to school. Jason was wearing a brand new school uniform and carrying a school bag, standing awkwardly beside the car. Next to him, Niji, wearing sunglasses, was secretly looking at a female teacher with a G-cup cup. After hearing this, he kicked Jason on the butt very skillfully. "Are you farting? Why don't you go to school?" A little furry kid who doesn't even have full hair still wants to join society. Jason, who was rubbing his butt, frowned and said, "I can learn from Teacher Nigma. Isn't he your brother? He said that you are an idiot. You should just hang out in school for a few years. He doesn't have time to teach an idiot." Niji said with a smile. Jason didn't know what to say. He carried his school bag like a shackle and walked back to the school, 3 times a step. By the way, go to class well. If you don't go to class well, I will ask Jerry to come over and take care of you. Remember to go home after class. After Niji finished speaking, he opened the car door, got into a new police car, and drove away. Jason looked at the police car disappearing on the street, sighed helplessly, and turned around and walked towards the school. Do-do-do, hummed Niji, but his expression was relaxed. The police badge and certificate hanging in his arms had also been upgraded to the position of sergeant. The youngest chief in the Gotham police force and the fastest rising chief, Chief Loeb, was unhappy, but not to the point of breaking up. After all, there was really no money in Arkham District. It doesn't matter if there is one more police chief or one less police chief. Even if Arkham District becomes independent, there will be no trouble. Moreover, when Niji accepted the position of sergeant, he kept an eye on every one of the leaders of the Gotham Police Department. Don't think that only prosecutors can be fished for in the Gotham Canal. Sheriffs, superintendents, and police inspectors can also be caught in a hurry. Compared with Niji, this position has improved by leaps and bounds. Gordon was just a little short of getting the position of captain of the crime squad, but he didn't care about that. They said that failure in the workplace leads to success in love, and that's true. The middle-aged Gordon officially became boyfriend and girlfriend with police officer Sarah Essen of the 2nd Homicide Division. This made Niji a little envious. He honked the horn and saw the red light at the intersection ahead. Niji slowly stopped the car, reached for the milk on the side, inserted the straw, and took a sip. Joker died. He died very neatly. Niji was worried about the loss of the world line, or the world changes or something. However, the world is obviously much more powerful than he thought. No matter who dies, it will not stop the sun from rising in the east tomorrow, and the earth will not stop rotating because of someone's death. The days are still passing day by day, just like the weather is getting colder and colder. Meow Moo is holding milk and looking at the signs outside. The homeless people gather in front of the manhole cover that is steaming outside to keep warm. When the green light turned on, those boring things were thrown out of his mind as the tires turned, and Niji drove towards the suburbs. Rich people in Gotham don't live in the city, but in the beautiful suburbs. The big ones are called manors, and the small ones are called villas. The most famous one is Wayne Manor, which has been passed down by the Wayne family for 6 generations, and it can be called the #1 existence in Gotham. As for Meow Moo, he was driving to a country villa to have a deal with someone. The car just drove onto a small road. They were stopped by a burly man in a black suit. After making contact with a pager, the few people got out of the way. After a while, the police car drove to the door of the villa. Meow Moo got out of the car, took off the glasses on his face, and looked at Falcone, who was feeding a group of chickens in the small farm on the side. Mr. Zass, the killer who also worked as a bodyguard, was standing nearby, wearing a white shirt and black trousers with his hands in his pockets. There were several serious bodyguards around. Niji walked towards the small farm. He didn't want to come here at first. There was no future in hanging out with a gangster like Falcone, but if you have money, that's another matter. However, before he could walk over, Niji was stopped again. "Please wait a moment." The bodyguard blocking the road said politely. Niji clapped his hands helplessly and turned to look at Falcone, who was feeding the chickens. He was dressed as a farmer, but he didn't look like a gangster. However, Niji was not curious because Falcone was from a very low background, and his mother raised Falcone and the others by raising these chicks and selling broiler chickens. Waiting for Falcone to finish feeding the chickens, Niji yawned out of boredom. "Congratulations, Mr. Gotham's youngest police chief." Falcone took the towel, wiped his hands, and said with a smile, "You came to me not to talk about this, right?" "Of course not. Please come in." Falcone threw the towel to the bodyguard and walked towards the villa inside, followed by the killer's Oz. Niji looked at the police car outside, stretched out his hand and tugged on the heavy belt, and then walked inside. "What would you like to drink? Red wine, whiskey, or a little psychoactive vodka?" Falcone pointed to the wine cabinet filled with world-famous wines, took a glass of refreshing wine, and sat on the sofa. Niji just crossed his arms and said, "I don't drink in the morning." Falcone nodded, stopped beating around the bush, and asked directly, "Did you kill Joker?" He fell down the stairs by himself. It had something to do with me. I threw him over. Niji said truthfully. Falcone rang the bell a hand, and a fat maid came over carrying a plate with a lid on it and delivered it to Niji. My words can still come true. The person who kills Joker will be the reward he deserves. Falcone took a sip of wine and said absently, I hate unruly people, especially people who have no interests and only do things based on their own preferences. Niji opened the lid, and inside was a check for 10 million US dollars and a copper key. What is this? Niji gestured to the key. A small gift. Just because Oswald can't do it doesn't mean that I can't do it. Just think of it as a gift from me. Falcone smiled mysteriously. He was very optimistic about this young man. He dared to fight hard and was brave. The key was that he didn't have those disgusting hypocrisies. Niji reached out and picked up the copper key. He was basically sure that this was the key to Bar Zero. Then, thank you, Mr. Falcone. Niji thanked him with a cupped hand. Don't give it up for free. What he needs now is money and money. Are you interested in getting a salary from me? Although you're a police sergeant, Arkham is not a wealthy place. You should not be restricted there when you are of a promising age. Falcone made no bones about it and said that he wanted to buy the seedlings. Half of the credit for his reaching his current position was the friends on his payroll. He was a Roman who bought half the city. So how could he miss a young and promising police officer? No Niji. The salary from the police station is enough. Thank you for your reward. Niji bent down to thank you, then turned and left without any nostalgia. This free and easy attitude even stunned Falcone. Watching Niji leave, the killer Zaz raised his head with a hint of ferocity on his scarred face. Do you want to teach him a lesson? Zaz really wanted to fight Niji, but he would not act without Falcone's order. It doesn't matter. Falcone waved his hand. It's enough for him to accept the money. Add his name to the salary slip. Put it in the secondary slip and send it to him every month. I'm really looking forward to what he will do. Falcone picked up the glass and drank the refreshing wine in one gulp. Have you found a master you were asked to find? Falcone turned to look at the fat maid. The Assassin's League has taken the order. The fat maid lowered her head and said. Falcone nodded. The unscrupulous Big Bat really made him feel a little anxious. This anxiety should not exist. In Arkham Asylum. Hello, Dr. Strange. A smiling, young, and promising man stretched out his hand to shake Strange's hand. I didn't expect that the new doctor would be so young. You seem to be underage. Hugo Strange praised with a big smile on his face. Thank you for your compliment. I'm 25 years old this year. It has always been my dream to come to Arkham Asylum. This hospital was built by my grandfather. His hope was to cure those suffering from mental illness. The patient, I will work hard to follow his expectations. Reintroduction. My name is Jeremiah Arkham. Jeremiah smiled and stretched out his hand to shake it with Strange. Please take good care of me in the future, Dr. Strange. Of course, do you have any courses you need? Strange said generously. Arkham Asylum is like no other. There are so many rare cases that any one of them would be a professional research topic. I heard that a crazy Joker appeared in Gotham. I heard that his body was borrowed by you for study, Jeremiah said with some embarrassment. I want to know the specific situation of this Joker and why he caused so much damage, leading to the death of dozens of people. After Strange heard this request, he was silent for a while, but looked at Yemalai's appearance and nodded. I'd be happy to help you, please. Chapter 100 Joker's Corpse. The underground facility of Arkham Asylum is, to be precise, a large utility room with a washing machine for cleaning bedding and clothes and an incinerator for burning garbage. Hugo Strange walked at the front, leading Jeremiah behind him towards the morgue. The lunatic asylum also had a place to store corpses. Although it was not big, there were many freezers. This place is really a bit shabby. Jeremiah looked at the spider webs on the corners of the ceiling and the dust in some places. There were dark red rust on the iron storage boxes, which looked like blood rust. Hearing this, Strange smiled and said, After all, Arkham Asylum has been established for a long time. It is very expensive to maintain it, and there are very few places used here. Strange took the key to unlock the door and pushed open the door of the morgue. It was more like a large ice house, even though the stainless steel freezers where the bodies were stored were not opened. The morgue was still filled with cold air, and the freezer on the bottom floor was frozen into lumps of ice. Okay, this is the famous Joker. Although I don't know where you got the news, but you know he is here. This is a secret. Strange walked to a freezer and pulled it open. It was like a big drawer inside, with a silver-white body bag lying quietly inside. Jeremiah watched the freezer open, walked over quickly, and looked at the body bag in the freezer with curiosity. Strange smiled, took a step back, and reached out to unzip the body bag. Dark green hair fell messily on Joker's face like dried seaweed. His ferocious smile made people shudder. It seemed that he could still hear his wild laughter. Relax, he's just a corpse. Strange comforted him, while reaching into the pocket of his white coat and holding a ballpoint pen. With lightning speed, Strange knocked Yemali aside with his body. Under Strange's white coat, his strong body is no less than that of those bodybuilders. This impact caused Yemali to be knocked against the freezer unprepared, with his face pressed against it. The biting cold made Yemali beg for mercy loudly. The ballpoint pen in Strange's hand was pressed against his neck, and the amiable look on his face was no longer there, only unruly and fierce. At this moment, he was not like a scholar, but more like a mercenary with a knife tip that licked blood, killing lives without mercy. Tell me, my dear Mr. Arkham, who told you that Joker is here? Strange asked in Jeremiah's ear. His voice was gentle and brisk. As a psychology expert, he knew very well how to find a suitable angle to inquire about the truth. Moreover, Joker's body is here, and there are definitely no more than 7 people who know about it. That nursery immediately sent Joker's body to the Gotham police station for identification and then burned it that night. He spent a lot of effort to get that woman Talia to send someone to package up Joker's body and bring it. Thinking of this, Strange stabbed Jeremiah's neck with the ballpoint pen in his hand, piercing the skin. The pain also prompted Jeremiah to quickly explain, I heard what others said. Really? Although your heartbeat is speeding up, your reaction is slow. You are thinking about what to say to your benefit. You are lying. No, you are hiding the truth. Strange said thoughtfully, Arkham, this surname no longer exists in Gotham. Maybe even the people in Arkham don't know who this place is named after. So, Jeremiah Arkham, don't hide it in front of me. I can understand your lies. You won't have a second chance. Strange pulled out the ballpoint pen and pointed it at Jeremiah's ear this time. There was still a drop of blood on the tip of the ballpoint pen, which condensed instantly in the cold storage. I say, Jeremiah also felt the threat of death. He knew very well that this bald doctor would really kill him. Someone asked me to get Joker's body as intact as possible. After that, the legacy of Arkham Asylum will become mine. I owe a lot of gambling debts, and I need this legacy. Jeremiah did not hide anything and said it directly, but Strange still heard something. No one else will know that Joker's body is here. Who is it? What do they want Joker's body for? Strange rolled his eyes, looked at Joker lying in the freezer, raised his hand, and knocked Jeremiah to the ground with an elbow. For some things, it's best to let him speak for himself. La 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 la. Niji hummed a happy ditty and drove straight to the home of Riddler Nigma. Nigma lived in a 3-story building opposite the Arkham police station, and Niji rented it with money. On the first floor below, there used to be a car wash shop, but the owner quit. Jerry asked people to clean it up and turn it into a gym with some simple fitness equipment. Some Arkham police officers are also used to coming here to lift dumbbells and are also responsible for security tasks. Hello, Sheriff. A police detective who was doing one-arm dumbbell exercise saw Niji coming over and quickly stood up to say hello. No, keep practicing. Niji waved his hand and walked upstairs. Now he is the boss of Arkham District. If you have breasts, you are a mother, and the benefits of being a police officer are also very good, and Niji can only be generous and reliable in his work. The original bonus offered to Director Wei Fei Sankey was given by Niji to 50-50, with 50% of the basic bonus, 50% of the bonus, and a monthly subsidy for the injured and injured police officers. He didn't take any of it himself. The 50% reward was the Arkham District's alarm resolution rate. More work, more reward. Being a policeman at least has to do something serious. Walking to the second floor, Niji looked at the rotary lock on the security door, which was just like the old-fashioned safety lock on the bank. After aligning the password, Miyamu opened the door and walked in. As soon as he entered, there were 2 bookshelves blocking the front, and a heavy canvas hung on the ceiling. If anyone dared to break in, these dumbbells, which weigh several kilograms, are very comfortable once they are dropped. Edward, Niji called as he walked in. Nigma was sitting in front of the workbench, looking at the alchemy codex on the table attentively. There was a pile of paper full of words on the table, and a pile of books, which were also scattered everywhere on the ground. Nigma reached out and turned the monocular magnifying glass on the frame, picked up a water-dipped quill, and was writing a character on the paper. He shouted to the back without looking back. "There are drinks in the refrigerator. Help yourself. Don't disturb me." "Okay." Niji was not polite, walked to the green 2-door refrigerator, opened the refrigerator door, and took out a bottle of Coke. Picking up a book on the ground, it was Analysis of Medieval Religion. Niji sat on the sofa with the book and flipped through it casually. Nigma was describing the characters. After deciphering it for 10 minutes, he crumpled the piece of paper into a ball and threw it into the full trash can. He looked up and sighed. "Is it difficult?" Niji asked as he put down the book. "It's not difficult, but it takes a lot of effort." Nigma raised his hand and took off his glasses, pinching his eye sockets very tiredly. "By the way, why did you come to me?" Nigma stood up and asked. He looked like a bachelor now. He hadn't been out in the past few days, and his hair was messy. The deciphering of the Voynich text was obviously not that smooth. After all, it was a medieval cipher text, and a large amount of data was needed to draw on it and deduce the correct meaning. "I didn't expect Falcone to actually give him the 10 million US dollars. Niji took out the check from his arms with a happy face and handed it to Nigma.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.